Partly cloudy and 15 with the 6 o'clock news. I'm Kendall Brettig.
FIVEaa Extra is a registered NDIS provider, so let them support you in achieving your goals. FIVEaAextra.com.
A team of scientists from Adelaide Uni believe they've solved the mystery of the Somerton man, whose body was found propped up against a seawall at Somerton in 1948. They've spent years comparing DNA from a sample of hair taken from the man to DNA submitted to genealogical sites by people trying to find more about their families. Professor Derek Abbott from Adelaide Uni says they're more than 99% sure of his identity.
Although he was born Carl Webb, he actually went by the name Charles Webb. He was born in 1905 in Footscray, Victoria. And he is in a family of 6 siblings, and he's the only one with no date of death.
It's believed he came to SA to try to find his wife who'd left him. Efforts will continue today to identify human remains found in the Hale Conservation Park in Williamstown yesterday. A bushwalker found the remains while hiking in the area. At first light, a thorough search will be undertaken and the remains taken away for forensic analysis. A young child has died from COVID in Queensland. More from Stephanie McDonald.
Queensland Health has issued a statement confirming the 23-month-old died from the virus on Sunday at the Queensland Children's Hospital. It's believed they're the youngest child to die from COVID-19 in Queensland. It comes as new modelling predicts the state's current third wave will peak at the end of August. It's expected COVID hospitalisations will reach 1,660. Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says the government is preparing for the surge with extra beds, virtual ED presentations and more frontline staff. But she says masks and boosters are also vital.
Here in SA, we had 3 more COVID deaths yesterday, aged in their 80s or 90s, and 379 people remain in hospital, 7 in ICU. The Prime Minister's working to reassure Australians his government has a plan to deal with the cost of living crisis. The inflation rate could officially reach a 32-year high when figures are released later this morning, heaping more pressure on the Reserve Bank to lift interest rates again. Anthony Albanese's told the national broadcaster he understands the pinch working families are feeling.
I'm very comfortable that my government has a plan to deal with those challenges. So what we need to do is to make sure there are appropriate settings put in place. Now, the Reserve Bank is responsible for part of that, but so is the federal government.
And the federal government will introduce its climate change policy to Parliament later today. Labor's planning to reduce emissions by 43% over this decade, but the opposition doesn't support the policy, meaning the government will need the Greens' help to get it passed. Former US President Donald Trump's addressing a conservative America First Agenda summit. It's his first return to the capital since leaving office last year. Mr. Trump has kicked off by reflecting on his time in office.
Very simply, we had made America great again. We made it great again, and we did it by putting workers first, by putting families first, and above all, by putting America first.
A week after announcing her engagement, Adelaide fitness mogul Kayla Itsinas has announced she's expecting her second child. Already mum to 3-year-old Anna with her former partner, Itsinas says she can't wait to grow her family with Jay Woodruff and watch him become a dad. The 31-year-old developer of the Bikini Body Guide is due early next year. Now turning to FIVEaa Sport.
New Mitsubishi Triton with 10-year warranty, 10-year capped price servicing at Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Kendall. Let's start with football. There's reports Matt Crouch will be put up for trade at the end of the season. The 27-year-old struggling to keep his spot in the senior side. The former best and fairest winner has been dropped 3 times this season and is understood to have been told he's not a part of the club's long-term future. Meantime, the Crows' fixture for the final round of the season has been released, with Adelaide to take on Port Adelaide on Saturday night, August 20. That match is set to begin at 7 p.m. Still on footy, in Richmond, veteran Jack Riewoldt has defended coach Damien Hardwick for verbally abusing players during a VFL match at the weekend. He's told Fox Footy it's been overblown.
Oh my gosh, yes. It isn't kids' footy, and you know what senior coaches care about? Their players. And if something untoward happens, which is what's happened in this case, and someone's done an act that probably isn't deserved to be on the footy field, then of course a bloke who cares about his boys is going to say something. That's care.
The AFL is investigating the incident. To tennis, 3 Aussies will be in action today at an ATP event in Atlanta. Thanasi Kokkinakis, James Duckworth and Nick Kyrgios will all play first-round matches later this morning. And England is on the verge of qualifying for this, the Women's Euro final tournament in soccer, currently leading Sweden 3-0 with about 15 minutes to play. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now the 5AA forecast.
3 out of 4 people never hear back from interviews. Shouldn't people matter more than that? Zoom Recruitment.
Partly cloudy and 15 today, a shower or two tomorrow, 15, mostly sunny on Friday, 15, then up to 17 and partly cloudy for Saturday. At the moment, 9. More news as it happens on 5AA.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
6 after 6, good morning to you. Welcome to Wednesday on 5AA Breakfast. The voice speaks the truth. He's back. David Penberthy, live in the flesh, as I live and breathe. Good morning and welcome back to you, sir.
Good morning, Will. Good morning, listeners. Great to be here. Will, thank you and congratulations for an excellent week of solo radio. You got your start doing the afternoon show, which is a one-man proposition, so it's probably a bit like riding a bike.
Ditto. Overnights for 6 hours on air back in the day.
That's true.
3 hours is a walk in the park.
Talking to people who've seen UFOs and stuff like that.
Exactly right. You learn all sorts of things.
But, mate, you did a sterling job.
Thank you, mate.
I can't honestly say I heard the first hour or hour and a half every day because I was battling the coronavirus in one of the least exciting medical battles I've ever been through. Got through it fine. But, you did a terrific job, and thanks to all the listeners as well who sent me messages. But, it's a weird old thing, isn't it? I was thinking about the Codral ad the other day. Soldier on with not allowed to soldier on anymore.
No.
Soldiering on. In fact, that ad is almost reckless. I'm sure there's some people who would regard that ad as reckless now. The idea of working through illness is dead.
Completely.
And even when you're feeling fine, you are told, no, you got to rest up. I feel like I've ticked the rest box.
You're well rested.
I think part of the problem with being cooped up for a week, and clearly this is a random thing that affects people in different ways, but some people are perfectly happy. And this is not a criticism at all, because everyone's allowed to live life the way they choose. There are some people who are naturally inclined towards thinking, "Oh, that's good. I can just have a day where I just do nothing."
Yep, that's me.
I can read. I can have a bit of a nana nap, bit of a siesta, watch some movies that I taped, just do nothing, just bum around, and I just can't do it. After even the first day when. Because we'd been to Monarto Zoo last Tuesday.
A few people asked whether you got to Monarto, so that worked out all right.
Yeah, well, it was all right until I was walking around the rhino enclosure thinking, geez, I'm feeling a bit ordinary. And the problem was, because it was school holidays, it was so busy. And the way Monarto works, and everyone who's been there will know this, there's a shuttle bus. Because it's a vast, sprawling area. It's one of the things that makes it so good. Like every single zoo in Australia, all of them, Taronga, even Western Plains in Dubbo, Melbourne Zoo, Adelaide City Zoo, you could put all of those zoos inside Monarto Zoo and still have room to spare. So there's a loop bus system, and the buses drop you off at like the giraffe enclosure, the Tassie Devils, they drop you off at the rhinos, they drop you off at the cheetahs. So we got off, my mate Simon and his daughter, and me and the 2 young boys, we just went for a nice G-rated school holiday thing. We got off at the rhinos, and because there were so many people there, the buses were all full. So we waited to get on the next bus at the end of the day, and every 15 minutes a bus would come and they'd say, "Oh, sorry, we're full, but there's another bus coming." We're like, "Yeah, no worries." Then the bus would come, "Sorry, we're full, there's another bus coming. Sorry, we're full, there's another bus coming." This went on for like an hour and a quarter, and it was getting really cold. And I was just standing there and thinking, oh, geez, I feel like I'm hot and I'm cold and I'm feeling a bit lethargic. And I was driving. So we drove back and I dropped him off in town. And by the time I got home, I texted Kate because she was out with a girlfriend. And I said, hey, they'd had a couple of drinks after lunch and a bit of a girls' catch-up. And I said, no need to rush, but I'm just about to take a rat test. And it was at that time you texted and our boss Money texted because it was the same day that Professor Spurrier had come down with it. And we were talking about that as a story. And I said, yeah, well, watch this space. I'm about to do a rat test. The moment I did it, it just went bing, 2 lines. And you know where I think I got it? Because it was the Tuesday.
At the aquarium?
No! No, I heard Blakey did a sketch about that.
Yeah.
John Blake he's a great satirist, but he's not an eminent virologist. I was at the aquarium a good 2 weeks before I got it.
Right, okay.
I reckon I got it at the footy here. I reckon I got it at the Collingwood game. And I remember going. I'd gone round to the hill. I was there with Kate and the kids, but my ex-wife was there with our oldest son. So I went round to say good day to them during half time. And while I was there, because I had the little kids with me, I said to my ex-wife, "Can you just mind Sam while I just run off to the loo?" I went to the loos behind the hill, and dead set. And look, I'm going to blame Collingwood fans for giving me the coronavirus. There were so many people in there, and that's the worst dunny at the Oval. The men's toilet directly behind the scoreboard, absolutely packed, and people, coughing and no masks. I walked in there and it just felt like a giant Petri dish. But who knows? I mean, how do you know? Because the week before. I had spent a long time at the market on Friday, talking to heaps of people after we did the show. Thursday night, went to Amalfi in Rundle Street, absolutely packed. But I might have got it walking past someone on the street who coughed on me. Who knows? How do you know?
I think it was a wonderful coincidence that you and Nicholas Spurrier got it on the same day, because I don't think any two people have taken more divergent paths to getting COVID for the first time than you and her. The absolute pinnacle of following all the rules, and you.
Well, it's not a question of not following the rules.
No, but you're not
doing stuff.
You're not a big mask guy, and you know she would be wearing it out all the time.
Yeah, I know. I never resisted the masks when they were mandatory.
No, but the moment they're not, you're not. Well, but I bet she is.
I've actually changed.
That's what I'm saying.
I've changed my mind on that now.
Have you?
Yeah. When I go to this, I haven't done anything for a week, so I've abided by all of the rules. And I said this on air, I said it with Matt Abraham, that I sort of think out of respect to people who are nervous about it, and particularly people who might be worried because of their age or maybe they're immunocompromised. I've got no issue now, particularly given that I've had it in the last week. I've got no issue with me when I go to Foodland later today putting a mask on. Just, I don't think it makes any difference. But just out of respect to those people, I'm going to do it for a while. But, I'm catching up with a mate. It's Thursday, tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. So, yeah, tomorrow night we're going to go out and have a feed together. I'm not going to sit there in a restaurant. I think we're going to the Belgian Beer Cafe. So we're going to be outside. If it's just me and him sitting there, I'm not going to have a mask on for that when you're eating and drinking. But I sort of think, you don't want society to feel divided over this, and it has become a bit like that, hasn't it? What do you do at the supermarket?
I've been in close contact for a week or so I had to wear it for a while.
Of course.
So you do. I haven't been. From the moment I went interstate, I stopped.
Yeah.
And you're probably right. But
some of the commentary around it, like some guy wrote this abusive thing to me on Twitter going, "Oh, if you don't wear a mask, what about the person standing next to you at the supermarket?" So, I'm not going to be leaning over them, talking to them, coughing on them, breathing all over them. I'm not going to be standing cheek by jowl with them. But medically, if they're wearing a mask, then aren't they safe anyway, even if I'm not?
Safer, certainly.
Safer.
Yeah.
That's the logic.
Yeah, that's the logic.
But, to avoid a nasty scene in aisle 3, when I walk past some 92-year-old person who's understandably more concerned about it than I am, for a while, why not? But I do think, though, that as a community, for the many people, many people, like every single member of my family right now, because I've all got it too, my extended family, my sister's got it, my brother-in-law's got it, my mum's got it, like everyone, and we've all had all of our vaccinations, and I think that's a huge part of it. I got that 4th booster 2 weeks before I got it. I reckon that makes a big difference to how easily you can get through it. I do wonder whether as a society we're heading down a path of mandated hypochondria, where even when it's patently obvious to you that 24, 48 hours after being diagnosed with a virus that is demonstrably easier to deal with than any cold you've ever had, why are we all still being prevented from working?
Well, let's put the question to people. 8223 Is it time that something changed on that front? Is it time it was wound back? Is it time that people were just entrusted to say, when you're doing well and when you're not doing so well? Let us know, 8223 Shoot us a text on the Automasters text line. Mark 2 blaming Collingwood fans. They seem to be everyone's favourite target for
that's not all I caught that night.
A COVID super spreading event.
At the Adelaide Clinic.
Thank you, Mark. 0480 1395 Automasters text line. News headlines next.
When you've been around for over a century, you know a thing or two. And Business SA and Ray White have almost 300 years between them. So when an alliance is formed between Business SA and Ray White Business Sales SA, they're bringing all their experience to your business, making sure it's in top shape, whether you're buying, selling, or somewhere in between. Get in touch with the experts, Business SA and Ray White Business Sales SA on 8300 0000. That's 8300 0000.
5AA's Tech Talk with your host, Adelaide tech guy Richard Pascoe. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Once upon a time, laptops were assumed to have less features than their desktop counterparts. Now, it's laptops like the HP Pavilion series that are stealing all the thunder. The HP Pavilion X360 is a two-in-one device, meaning it can be a laptop or it can fold into a touchscreen device. Streaming movies and TV, keeping in touch with video calls and generally getting things done is way more fun on an X360. Not only can you bend and flip with its 360-degree hinge, but it is also built for a marathon with long-lasting battery life. Equipped with an Intel i3, 8GB of RAM and a 256GB solid-state drive, it's the perfect computer for work, school or university. Get into your local Harvey Norman store now and grab the HP Pavilion X360 for only $898.
Check out this great offer at 5AA.com.au. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Bloom Glenside is a prestigious over 55s community address for the discerning boomer. It's a place you will love to live. Now, it's the first of its kind in South Australia. Bloom Glenside focuses on creating an apartment living solution with community at its heart.
At Bloom Glenside, the home you buy is and will remain 100% yours, meaning all capital growth is retained by you with no hidden fees whatsoever. The amenities are outstanding too, with a swimming pool, beautiful pavilion, library and elevated community garden.
It's absolutely sensational. This is a chance to enjoy a vibrant and active edge of city lifestyle within walking distance of Adelaide's most desirable restaurants, cafes, fashion stores, shops, supermarkets and more.
Welcome to Bloom at Glenside, offering prestige 1, 2 and 3 bedroom luxury apartments for discerning boomers. To find out more, register at bloomglenside.com.au. That's bloomglenside.com.au.
There's more value at Coles with $20 off when you spend $250 or more online. Just enter the code VALUE20 at checkout. Shop now at coles.com.au. Coles, value the Australian way. Offer ends August 2. T's and C's apply.
9 News has the experience to break the news. Made in Adelaide for Adelaide. 9 News. David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
19 after 6 news headlines on this Wednesday morning. The 74-year-old mystery of the Summerton man may finally have been solved. DNA taken from a sample of hair appears to have found a match. Professor Derek Abbott and his team from Adelaide University have spent years comparing his DNA samples from people who've submitted theirs to genealogical sites, and now they're 99% sure they know who he was. Carl Webb, also known as Charles Webb, was born in Footscray, Victoria in 1905. And we'll hear more from Derek Abbott throughout the show. He caught up with Matthew Pantelis last night, really extensive and wide-ranging interview, so we'll get you across a lot of what he had to say. But this is a story that's been solved by the march of science, effectively.
Yeah.
A combination of the internet and DNA technology.
It's a great story. So what? There was like a plaster death mask on the Somerton man, and the Adelaide Uni researcher was given 50 strands of hair. And I reckon they've worked it out from that.
Yeah, they've tied it to living people. They've built a whole family tree and worked out who it's likely to be.
It's a bit like one of those Who Do You Think You Are episodes now, where presumably there'll be someone in Adelaide, or maybe someone in Melbourne, who's got like an old family album in the back shed, gathering dust with a picture of, their great uncle Webb in there.
Absolutely.
Hang on a minute. What have happened to him?
The annual inflation rate could officially reach a 32-year high. The Bureau of Statistics will release the data showing the effects of surging consumer prices in the June quarter. AMP Chief Economist Shane Oliver says the key issue to watch is whether it rises even more than predicted.
That if inflation continues to surprise on the upside such that we push above the 7% Reserve Bank estimate by year end, then that just only adds to pressure on the Reserve Bank to keep raising interest rates and to raise them by more.
2/3 of surveyed Australians say they head online for health advice before talking to a medical professional. The report has prompted a new push to boost health literacy among the general population. Consumer Healthcare Products Australia Chief Executive Dion Shumby says people want to have control over their care.
One of the most encouraging things that we found in this research is that overwhelmingly Australians feel that they are responsible for their health. This was such a big surprise because I think sometimes there's an attitude of, the system will look after me.
Melbourne City Council is one step closer to ditching Australia Day. Amazing what's in the remit of councils these days.
How they going with midnight?
Councils have decided to review how January 26 should be celebrated in future, and Lord Mayor Sally Capp led the call for change in a meeting last night, saying the day had become divisive and public sentiment is changing. Events likely to be affected include the Australia Day parade and fireworks display and citizenship ceremonies, but Indigenous and business leaders have called it tokenism and outside the council's remit. So who exactly are they pleasing? I know, inner city Greens voters.
Well, that's right. And we had, many years ago, do you remember we had the Brunswick councillor came on?
Yes.
We interviewed them about it. And I don't know, I think the idea that councils are going to go this alone is one of the silliest things I've ever heard, particularly given you don't even have compulsory voting for councils here in South Australia. The other thing too, councils play an important role with citizenship ceremonies. And that is something that means so much to all the people who come here from places like Afghanistan and, thinking about the most recent influx of people who have come here from South Sudan. Like, for them, Australia Day's got some genuine and positive multicultural meaning for people like that. But, and that's the role councils have historically played. It should be a federal government decision. What happens with Australia Day.
Top of 15 today, cool one. Same tomorrow, but tomorrow comes with rain, so you could say it's a little bit worse, up to 3 mils in 15. Friday, 15 and dry. Saturday, 17 and just a little drizzle around. The real rain comes on Sunday and Monday. 15 the top on Sunday with up to 15 mils of rain. Monday's 14 with up to 10 mils of rain, and maybe even 4 lingering around on Tuesday when the top is just 16. Tom Wren in the 5AA Breakfast Studio as we turn our attention to sport. The new Mitsubishi Triton with 10-year warranty, 10-year cap price servicing at Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth. Morning to you, Rennie.
Morning, Will. Morning, David. Welcome back. Great to have you.
Great to see you, mate.
Look, we have a grizzle every now and then, and I think most fans do, about the state of the game. And, Will, you've been quite strong, and I think we all have, about Jack Ginnivan and the way it's been legislated and umpired over the past couple of weeks in particular. It takes a lot more weight, though, doesn't it, when it comes from someone with the gravitas of Lee Matthews, arguably the greatest player of all time.
I'll cop that.
Yeah, 4 times. Yeah. Well, me too.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
Absolutely. No, you're right.
But 4-time premiership coach as well. He was asked about it last night on 3AW. Now, we know he's a regular contributor with Rowie. We love him. He's outstanding. And he does the same in Melbourne with our sister station 3AW. He was asked about that incident specifically from the weekend with Mason Redman. Let's have a listen.
What were you feeling when you saw that, Lee? I mean, what emotion was going through your body?
I felt sick.
Sick?
I felt sick because the fabric of our game, the fabric of the game is umpires treating every player the same. Yeah. But that was virtually not only a high contact headlock, it was bordering on unduly rough play from Mason Redmond. And the best umpire in the game, Max Stevic, didn't blow the whistle. Now, I didn't blame Stevic. I thought to myself, what are they doing to our game? And when I say they, I mean Richard Gorder in the Commission, who are the only body that can actually change rules, and Gillon McLaughlin and his coaching cohort of advisors that are making the game easier for the tackler and harder for the bloke with the ball.
Pretty strong stuff. That's as strong as I've heard Lee Matthews.
Well, I heard you play the extended grab in your program earlier, Rennie, and he goes on to say, since he left coaching, he didn't want to get emotional about footy. He said, didn't do that anymore. It just makes me so rolled up, I can't. But he said this did it to him.
Yeah, got his blood boiling.
This absolutely sent him over the edge.
Yeah.
Isn't the flip side of the problem, though? You think about like how many, for years, people have talked about the way like Joel Selwood plays.
This is it.
And we're at the point now. And you know, that Collingwood game, sure, Ginnivan was an issue, but there were other guys immediately dropping to their knees the moment they got the ball. Players have been trained to do it. So the culture of the AFL, or the way the game's been played for the last decade, has been increasingly leading us to this position. But to then get to the point where you go to the other extreme, where guys are actually getting virtually decapitated, and it's like, we can't...
The stupid thing about the red ones, okay, the initial contact may have been accentuated, even created by Ginnivan, but then he was in a headlock.
Yeah, he held him on the ground.
And that's where I agree with Lee Matthews. This felt like the umpire, and we made this point on the edge during the week, Rennie. It felt like them making a point. You're not showing us up, Sonny Jim, which I think actually is gutless, because you wouldn't do it to a champion. You wouldn't do it to Joel Selwood, would you?
Because it's a first or second year player.
First year player, 19-year-old kid, and you're going to make a stand? Head. That's gutless.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing people probably don't talk about is the danger of ducking the head, or, these head-high tackles, is someone one day is going to get very, very seriously injured. Like, badly injured. So, concussion's a major issue, we know that. So that's probably the other thing that's being lost in all of this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
I've missed your daily insights, Tom.
Yeah.
What's going on? Are the Crows going to win another game, and are Port going to make the 8?
No. Yes, Crows will win another game. No, Port won't make the 8, unfortunately. And I think Matt Crouch will be at another club next season.
Ooh, really?
Oh, I'm glad we're out of time, because that would have... I'm not sure why you tell a bloke who's got a year left on his contract that you're not going to give him another contract and broadcast to the entire AFL that you want him out of your club when you're expecting to get something back in a trade for him. Good on you, Rennie. Nick, at 10-year warranty, 10 years cap price servicing, Agostino, Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth.
I was injured in an accident at work and I had no idea where to turn. If I went to a lawyer, I was expecting legal jargon I didn't understand. But when I met with Marnie's lawyers, I knew I'd made the right decision. The first interview was free, and they sat me down and addressed all my concerns, explaining my rights in a way that I understood. I successfully made a claim for my injury and received compensation I was entitled to.
Marnie's Lawyers. Work injury law experts. marnieslawyers.net.au.
Are you dreaming of a better sleep? Are you suffering from stress or a busy mind? At FIVEaa, we're inviting people aged 18 to 75 who have trouble sleeping to participate in a CBD sleep study. Learn more and register your interest today. Go to cbdsleepstudy.com.au. That's cbdsleepstudy.com.au.
For over 38 years, Steinborner has been well worth the trip. With over 400 used cars to choose from, you're sure to find the car you're looking for. Steinborner is your first choice for new Hyundai and Mitsubishi in the Barossa, and your first choice for Ford in Clare. And don't forget, you can always click through the collection of vehicles online at steinborner.com.au. Great local deals on great local cars from your locals. Steinborner Automotive. Still well worth the trip, or well worth the click.
We're for bringing you great savings at The Advertiser. Subscribe today and enjoy 7-day newspaper home delivery plus digital access for just $1 a day for the first 3 months. Search The Advertiser offer today. Min cost $31. Conditions apply.
I can hear on a boat.
music I can hear in the shower. I can even hear when I swim.
Some of that's down to Ordeo Life, the world's first waterproof rechargeable hearing aids. Call Connect Hearing now for your free 10-day trial on 1300 520 804.
Need hot water? If you're not connected to gas, Trade Services SA can install a new heat pump hot water system in your home from just $995. That's a saving of more than 70% off normal price, all thanks to the government incentive programs, which encourages people to reduce energy. Stay warm this winter. Visit tssa.com.au to see if you're eligible. That's tssa.com.au. Terms and conditions apply.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Partly cloudy and 15 with the 6:30 news. I'm Kendall Brettig.
Looking for the perfect winter exercise? Physio Extra offers clinical Pilates at 6 locations. physioextra.com.
A truckie has now been charged over a multi-car crash at Glen Osmond on Sunday. His truck ploughed into 7 cars and a bus at the bottom of the freeway. 9 people were injured. Amazingly, no one was killed. The driver himself was taken to the RAH. The 60-year-old from Queensland has now been charged with acts to endanger life, 9 counts of dangerous driving and other driving offences. He'll appear in the Adelaide Magistrates Court today. There's been a breakthrough in the mystery of the Somerton man. His body was found propped up against a seawall at Somerton back in 1948. He's now been identified as Carl Webb, also known as Charles, who was born in Footscray, Victoria in 1905. Professor Derek Abbott and his team from Adelaide Uni have spent years comparing DNA from people who've submitted theirs to genealogical sites. He says it was a painstaking process.
We've been trying to extract DNA from it all these years. And finally, we had enough refinement that we were ready to go and use that DNA to find a nearest cousin.
Investigations will continue today after human remains were found in a conservation park in Williamstown yesterday. A walker discovered the bones in the Hale Conservation Park. The identity of the person is unclear. Australia is expected to smash a 30-year inflation record as pressure mounts on the economy. The Bureau of Statistics will release its CPI figures today, with inflation predicted to rise above 6%. A cost of living crisis and surging energy prices are believed to be behind the rise. The International Monetary Fund is warning the world could face a recession in 2023. While people are putting off a trip to the dentist as they feel the pinch from cost of living pressures. More from Brady Evans.
More than 2/3 of adults say they haven't been to the dentist in the past 2 years. A similar number delayed dental treatment for ailments like cavities, cracked teeth or bleeding gums in the last 12 months. A quarter of the 25,000 people surveyed have avoided the chair for 5 years. Dentists are concerned cost of living pressures and long waiting lists for government-funded care will create a backlog of problems.
Queensland researchers are preparing for clinical trials to examine if a high-fat, low-carb diet can help people with some mental health disorders. The team will look to build on positive signs in research about keto therapy for those with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. James Cook's University's Zoltan Sani says the diet's focused on foods like eggs, meat, dairy, avocado and nuts.
When we think about ketogenic therapy, I think it should be considered as a therapeutic approach rather than a lifestyle diet. Ketogenic diet is quite restrictive.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
10-year warranty and 10-year capped price servicing at Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Kendall. Adelaide's players will train tonight as they prepare for Saturday night's clash against Carlton at home. There's much discussion on the future of Matt Crouch, with the 27-year-old out of the senior side and reportedly told he won't be a part of the club's longer-term plans. Well, Melbourne's Christian Petrarca admits complacency has creeped into his side at times this season, but says the reigning premiers are looking to revive their competitive edge in the lead-up to the finals.
I think when you get to a position we're at, and probably similar to a lot of other teams, when you're at the top, you probably think, oh, my teammate will do it, or, I'll worry about the next one, where just focusing on your role and focusing on what you can control is the most important thing in that time. The next 4 weeks are going to be really strong. I think it's awesome going into finals, having arguably 4 of the top 6 teams, I think.
The D's face Fremantle in Perth on Friday night. Well, Racing Victoria has ramped up its spring bonus program with another $5 million on the line for the winners of 5 feature events. The bonuses are designed to convince owners of spring contenders to compete exclusively in Melbourne. Australian basketball star Liz Cambage is reportedly set to part ways with WNBA powerhouse the Los Angeles Sparks. And England is the first nation through to the Women's Euros after smashing Sweden 4-0 in the semi-final. They'll take on the winner of France and Germany. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now to the weather.
3 out of 4 people never hear back from interviews. Shouldn't people matter more than that? Zoom Recruitment.
Partly cloudy and 15 today, a shower or 2 tomorrow, also 15, then mostly sunny on Friday, 15. At the moment, 8. More news as it happens on 5AA.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
Twenty-four to 7, coming up after 7 o'clock on 5AA Breakfast this morning. We're going to be talking about the anniversary of Australians in the Vietnam War. It's actually on the 31st of July. Coming up this Sunday, 60th anniversary. We'll be speaking with a veteran a little bit later. Then after 7:30, interesting chat last night at the Adelaide Zoo. Will they follow what the Melbourne Zoo and others around Australia have done, taking a host of precautions with regard to foot and mouth disease? In Victoria, if you're on a farm, you've been on a farm, you can't go and visit the zoo, for example. The Adelaide Zoo were convening this meeting to determine what course of action should be taken here. So we'll get you across that at 7:30 this morning. And then a little bit later, you'll hear from Derek Abbott, who has revealed the identity of the Somerton man. Great interview last night with Matthew Pantelis on the evening show. He'll get you across how they arrived at being the percentage they're calling is 99% sure. So I'm sure there'll be some conspiracy theorists out there who'll say, well, there's still wiggle room, could be someone else, but the way they've pieced together the DNA evidence is quite spectacular. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later.
Great story.
It turns out there's a full frontal assault on the eastern suburbs, claimed to being the home of the canopied street.
The leafy eastern suburbs.
The leafy eastern suburbs.
One of the great cliches of journalism.
They're under threat. And it's coming from the city of Holdfast Bay. Mayor Amanda Wilson joins us on 5AA Breakfast. Morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good on you for throwing down the gauntlet to the leafy inner east, Amanda. This is terrific. Does the Bay have a bit of a shortage of trees? I mean, we know you've got the famous old gum tree where the colony started, but beyond that, you clearly need a few more.
Well, we do have Moseley Street that has that beautiful tree canopy, but yeah, we're after a lot more, especially down the Seacliff Way. So we're planting 400 semi-mature trees. And they're more than just shrubs. They are mature, not mature trees, but they're trees. And 400 of them are going in around Seacliff and Brighton this winter planting season.
So when will they be fully grown, Mayor?
They'll probably take another, fully grown, 10 years, I suppose.
Oh, that's not bad.
But yeah, I mean, the gums that are going in are already quite tall. They're the size of a human, so they're already quite established. And then, of course, we've got lots of other little shrubs being planted throughout our sand dunes and all over the city. It's National Tree Weekend on the weekend, so all our volunteers will be out again on Sunday planting around Kingston Park this weekend and trying to get our tree canopy coverage bigger so that we can rival the leafy green eastern suburbs.
So can you give us a bit of, we don't need you to go through species by species, but what sort of trees are we talking about? You mentioned gum trees, Amanda. Are a lot of them native eucalypts?
Yeah, we've got some eucalypts, jacaranda. I think we just planted a myrtle at a roundabout near Brighton High School. Lots of them are natives. I think there's about 32 different species being planted. You need a lot of different variety in trees so that their biodiversity can attract different wildlife and so that they can live a bit of a healthier life, which I never knew. We've got Sydney red gums. We've got 32 different types.
That's good.
Banksias.
Good on you.
Yeah, Ficus.
Good to hear.
Well, we
as
look
well.
forward. We'll chat with you in 10 years.
A lot of Will's
Mayor.
favourites, right?
Yeah,
there.
you
He's
did. You
rattled
went
them off.
through them.
Big
You
ficus
could
guy.
have kept going. We'll chat with you in 10 years, Mayor, and then you can officially get Holdfast Bay as the home of the leafy western suburbs.
Leafy western suburbs.
Yeah, that's
I
exactly
love
right. Good on you. Amanda Wilson, the Mayor of the City of Holdfast Bay. 20
Good initiative.
Terrific initiative. It'll look great. Yeah, the thing I like, often you see those tree planting initiatives from council and you say, oh, this will be good. And then you realise that you're not going to see the full fruits of it until 2067 or something or other.
There's an old gardener saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. And you think, well, I'm not going to live here when this looks good.
We bought a mango tree from Perry's Fruit and Nut Trees down in McLaren Flat, one of SA's best specialist nurseries. And when I bought it, because Sam, my son, loves mangoes, and I said, let's buy a mango tree for the house. There's only one type. It's called Kensington Pride. It's the only one that will grow in South Australia. And when I bought it, the lady there, she said, oh, so you won't be able to get any fruit off it for 5 years. And Sam was age 5 at the time when we bought it. And he's going, 5? That's like twice my whole life. So I'm going to be 10 before I can eat a mango? But like we walk past the tree at home now and I go, hey, Sam, the tree's just celebrated its first birthday, only 4 years to go. But it's just sitting there doing its thing.
Luke's called in. The lights are flashing yellow at the intersection of Tapley's Hill Road and Sir Donald Bradman Drive this morning. He says it's a mess right now, so avoid the area. Thank you for that, Luke. We'll check traffic more broadly. Discover Bloom at Glenside, prestige apartments for discerning boomers. Register at bloomglenside.com.au.
Thanks, Will. At Lockleys, you'll find traffic lights playing up on Tapley's Hill Road near Sir Donald Bradman Drive. At Findon, gas replacement works there. At Strimmer Parade near Findon Road, affecting both directions. And in the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace. That's for the Illuminate Festival. Starting to get busy, South Road as you're driving through Karratha Park. And we've got cameras Halsey Road, Elizabeth East, and Main North Road at Barathal. Need some space? Well, right now at 40 Winks, you can get any size mattress for the price of a single. Hurry, and Sunday. T's and C's and exclusions apply. 40 Winks, serious about sleep. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
G'day, it's Mark Bickley. When you buy a Leader computer, you're buying a computer made right here in Adelaide. You're dealing with people that live in Adelaide, and when it comes to servicing or support, it all happens here in Adelaide. Not overseas, not interstate. Unlike some others, Leader don't have to send anything off for repair. They take care of everything right here. It makes sense to live life local. Live life Leader. Leader Computers. Find your local dealer at leadersystems.com.au. Nothing beats that new car experience. And you'll still be feeling it long after you drive away in a new Kluger 7-seat hybrid SUV from Jarvis Toyota. With all-wheel drive hybrid power and intelligent safety technology, the Kluger is where freedom meets family. And Jarvis have stock ready for immediate delivery. Rediscover the road in the all-new Toyota Kluger hybrid at Jarvis Toyota. South Road, Clovelly Park, proudly celebrating 21 years of great deals.
I feel like I've been counting sheep all night.
Sounds like you need circadian.
Don't you mean circadian rhythm?
No, circadian. It's prolonged release melatonin and it helps improve sleep quality.
Circadian?
Yeah, circadian. You can ask your doctor or your pharmacist if it's right for you.
Thinking melatonin? Think circadian. Sleep better, live better. Visit circadian.com.au for more tips on sleep. For people 55 years or older, ask your pharmacist about this product.
You're the generation that stopped wars and started revolutions, so you're hardly going to start compromising now. Welcome to Bloom at Glenside, exclusive community living where sustainability and luxury go hand in hand. Access to a swimming pool, pavilion, gym and more. Surrounded by parklands and walking trails on the fringe of the city. Prestige apartments for discerning boomers. Register now at bloomglenside.com.au.
Silence. It's uncomfortable. We start to think. We start to wonder if something's wrong. If we're wrong. In silence, there's doubt. And it's silence that 3 out of 4 job seekers hear after applying for a job. People should matter more than that. Zoom Recruitment. Make people matter.
9 News has the experience to break the news. Made in Adelaide, for Adelaide. 9 News. David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
15 to 7. Check in with SAPOL in just a moment, but first, John Fisher, senior forecaster at the Bureau, joins us. Morning to you, John.
Good morning, guys.
So what have we got in the way for Wednesday?
Yeah, so another partly cloudy day forecast for Adelaide, top temp around the 15-degree mark, so similar conditions to yesterday. Looks like, we've got a bit of cloud around this morning, but should start to see some sunny patches develop this afternoon. Dry conditions today. There is just a mention of a slight chance of a shower around those far southern suburbs late this evening, but it looks like that'll be mostly after midnight. So, after a dry day today, got some showers moving up from the south tomorrow with a weak trough. Not huge amounts of rain in it, but it could be some light showers or kind of drizzle periods through Thursday morning, potentially even into the early afternoon there. But that'll clear off later tomorrow. Another top temperature of 15 degrees for Thursday there. And then dry again for Friday. Similar temperatures still, 15 degrees, but should be a mostly sunny day. And then for the weekend, guys, looking like there is another change moving in from the west. So could start to see some light showers around probably for the second half of Saturday there, but ahead of that, mostly dry and temp around 17 for Saturday, with those showers kind of becoming a bit more widespread on the Sunday there. So back to some kind of showery, cooler conditions for Sunday into early next week. But until then, just the chance of that shower tomorrow morning, but otherwise mostly dry.
John, thank you for that.
Thanks,
Senior
John.
forecaster John Fisher from the Bureau. Let's head to SAPOL. Senior Constable Dave Muir's on the line. David, a truck driver's now been charged over the freeway crash that we've spoken about extensively for the last couple of days.
Yeah, that's right. Look, as we reported with you guys on Monday morning, we were called to that intersection, Glen Osmond Road and Portrush Road at the bottom of the freeway after a Mitsubishi truck that was towing a trailer was unable to stop as it entered the intersection of Cross Road. Now, that truck driver was travelling along the down track, crashed into a couple of cars and a bus, and then crashed into another 5 vehicles. The impact also caused another couple of vehicles to be involved in the crash. Now, that truck driver was taken to the Royal Adelaide Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Miraculously, 9 other people only received minor injuries, while another 5 were thankfully not injured at all. Now, last night, that truck driver, a 60-year-old man from Queensland, was arrested and charged with acts to endanger life, 9 counts of dangerous driving causing harm, and a number of other traffic matters, including numerous national heavy vehicle offences. Our investigations into that crash are continuing. He's been refused bail and he'll front the Adelaide Magistrates Court later today.
Geez, they're extremely serious charges, Dave. I've got to say, I was off when it happened, but just looking at the video and hearing all of the coverage here on 5AA, I can't remember which SAPOL officer it was, but the fact that no one was seriously injured or even killed in this is a miracle, as SAPOL said.
It is. Yeah, it is. You just when you see the vision and you see, the carnage that occurred, you just scratch your head and think, how the hell did people get out of that without, serious or, life-threatening injuries or a fatality?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave, also, this is of concern, obviously. Human bones were found at Williamstown yesterday.
Yeah, this was just after 1 o'clock yesterday. Police were called to the Hale Conservation Park on Warren Road after some remains were found by a member of the public. Now, police carried out an initial investigation and did remain at the scene overnight. We're having our forensic experts attending this morning, along with additional police and SES volunteers who are going to assist with the search. We expect probably to commence around 8:30 this morning. Now, we are asking anyone with information that could assist police, give us a call, please, at Crime Stoppers, 1800 333 000.
Good on you, Dave. Thank you. Senior Constable Dave Muir from SAPOL. Fascinating that it turns out that the drivers from interstate, we must have spoken with a half a dozen truckies the day after it happened, and to a man, every single one of them said, look, I don't want to cast aspersions. I don't want to assume what I don't know, but I would be willing to bet a lot that it's an interstate truck driver.
Yeah, who wasn't familiar with the road.
That's what they say. The problem is, and we had a couple of great explanations, people made the point that you drive into Perth, there's a steep decline. You do in Brisbane, there's a steep decline. And you get accustomed to those places. But the thing that sets Adelaide apart is that there is no point at which it levels off. It's constant. And for people that don't do it regularly, these guys are trained to think, well, there'll be a point at which it'll level off and I'll be able to lose some speed. But that just simply doesn't happen here in Adelaide.
I know it's a massive infrastructure ask, but surely now, and I note that Dan Cregan, and more power to his arm, made this point the other morning as the member for the Adelaide Hill seat of Carville. I know it's the biggest infrastructure ask going around, but there's got to be a better way than letting these trucks come down that damn freeway. What Mount Barker is a metropolis. It's easily the fastest growing part of South Australia. There's tens and tens of thousands of people who use that road every day. Trucks don't belong on it.
10 minutes to 7, 822 3000 is our name. You can jump into the conversation, of course, too, by texting us on the Automasters text line, 044808 1395. We've got a world premiere coming up at the Dunstan Playhouse in August, and what's more, it's a new Australian comedy. It's called Chalkface. It takes you inside schools and to all the shenanigans of the staff rooms. Mitchell Butel is the State Theatre's co-artistic director and joins us now on 5AA Breakfast. Mitchell, good morning.
Good morning to you.
What's the satire in Chalkface? What is it telling us about the classroom or the staff room?
Well, I think as you just said, it's using comedy to kind of get across a number of points about the education system and the public school system and passive aggressive behaviour in the staff room. As a great play by Angela Betson, who just came off writing Total Control with Deborah Melvin and Rachel Griffiths on ABC TV. And starring the great Catherine McClement, and I think a very timely comedy about how much we should value our teachers and how they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting in our society at the moment.
Hopefully, there's been a bit of a revisiting of some of the cliches over the last couple of years. People banging on historically about you get in at 9, you're out of there by 3. I think that COVID has changed a lot of the perceptions of teaching when teachers became the absolute front line and keeping the show on the road, particularly here in SA where. Mercifully, we didn't have too many of the closures that affected the eastern states. Do you think the play more broadly, though, Mitchell, does it get into dismantling some of those stereotypes about the teaching profession?
I think it really does. Actually, Angela, who writes it, is from it's a co-production with Sydney Theatre Company, and she lives in Sydney, and she was homeschooling during all the COVID lockdowns over there, and made her realise, like many of her friends, that this is not as easy as one would imagine. And from that, she began interviewing a lot of school teachers and talking to a lot of kind of global experts, including Patrick Salberg from the Gonski Institute about teaching methodologies, etc. And just that incredible thing about not only is your workload incredibly intense and adrenaline-filled during the day with, oversized classrooms and problem children, but there's such a kind of, such heart and humanity needed in order to kind of give these children not just kind of testing regimes, but a kind of paradigm for which to live their lives as good humans. So it's a really interesting look at that system, but also it's incredibly funny and it kind of noises off, a very deep, fast way as well. So, I think all good theatre, it entertains while it also enlightens.
So after Adelaide, it's off to Sydney. Is it a bit of a coup that it's starting here?
Yeah, it's great. Things are going. At State Theatre Company at the moment, it's our 50th year. We're having some big hits actually in terms of co-productions. Girl from the North Country, currently New Zealand, another of our shows. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf went to Sydney and to Brisbane. So it's fantastic that I think nationally we're getting a lot. This is a kind of half Adelaide, half Sydney cast. But nationally, I think a lot of people are kind of wanting our product and wanting South Australian actors, which is a really cool thing. So we're a little engine room here in Adelaide of really good new Australian work, which are getting out to the rest of the country.
Love Girl from the North Country. Thought that was a terrific show. Mitchell, congratulations to you on another cracker and getting another premiere here in South Australia. Appreciate your time.
And thanks for having me. All the best.
Mitchell Butel, the State Theatre co-artistic director, with that new play Chalkface that'll be at the Dunstan Playhouse from the 5th of August right through to the 20th. You can get tickets at thestatetheatrecompany.com.au. Now, you have to get in then between that period of time because, as I say, it's after that off to Sydney for, almost 2 months. So it's got a big run ahead. Sounds like a terrific show.
Can I just share something that's troubled me over the last week, Will, of indolence while I've been sitting around?
Yes.
Just my mind wandering in all sorts of strange directions. Have you seen the new rain predictor on the Bureau of Meteorology's app? So it used to say tomorrow the forecast is for 3 mil of rain. They've now changed it so you get 3 different categories as to what the prediction is. So tomorrow, looking at tomorrow, minimum 7, maximum 15, forecast says shower or 2. But then you drilled down into it and it says rain. 75% brackets high chance of no rain, 50% brackets medium chance of at least 1 mil, 25% brackets low chance of at least 3 mil.
What are you meant to do with that?
I don't know. Like it seems to be sort of a formalised version of fence sitting, doesn't it?
Well, they've always had on their official, on the Bureau's website, it'll say tomorrow, chance of any rain, 70%. Then they're predicting 1 to 3 mils.
Yeah, but so they've gone from the old prediction was what's the percentage likelihood of any rain.
Yep.
But now you get these 3 different categories, so a high, medium, and low chance. Maybe it's because I'm mathematically hopeless. I just find that completely meaningless. Like I look at it and I think, well, you almost need to understand betting to work out which one's the most likely.
Yeah, you're right.
We need Tommy Wren to get involved in this, I think.
I think most people...
You get on the 25%.
Most people don't...
The 25% of 3. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one on Thursday.
It stops... Yeah, I don't know what the utility of that is. Let's get to some texts. Automasters text line stat coming in on 0448081395.
There's some nice ones here welcoming me back. One here signed off by Footscray Joe. Here's one for you, Will. It says, well done, Will. You've let Pembo have a full head of steam. No food references yet, but he went close with the mango tree. And a bit of a tree-off unfolding on the Automasters text line. We're talking about Glenelg before throwing down the gauntlet to the leafy eastern suburbs. Well, Kay says, leafy eastern suburbs, come to Golden Grove. Now, that's leafy. Good on you, Kay. And another one as well from Clinton, Port supporter, who says that he agrees with me that Collingwood fans were the reason that I caught COVID. I won't go into the details as to why he says that. Graham, talking about mask wearing, he says, I think wearing a mask in a highly populated area is just like saying hello to everyone that you pass by. It's just good manners. And Tessa in Paraka, who had the COVID bad, Tessa writes, the issue is still the high transmissibility of BA5. The higher volume of cases, the higher the likelihood of serious cases in hospitals. I'm okay with conservative measures which slow the spread so that our health systems have a chance to cope. And PS, as someone who was very sick with COVID, I'm grateful for any collective measures left which prevent COVID blowing through at pace.
Coming up to 2 minutes to 7, 5AA News is on the way. We'll take you through some of the big stories of the morning, including the unmasking of the Summerton man, Rex Hunt's road rage incident, and the shocking end to a debate prospective leadership candidates for the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom. That's all ahead. Stay with us on 5AA Breakfast.
You've selected your block up on the river. Your mind is buzzing with ideas. This is going to be the best river home ever. Raised high, breezes flowing, great times ahead. But first, you need to walk through the Selector Homes display village and let your design ideas flow. Selector Homes have been creating holiday homes for over 25 years, and they are experts in building pole homes. Selector Homes and Building Solutions Display Village, Port Wakefield Road, Burton. Visit selectorhomes.com.au.
We've all been there. In the beginning, it's a rush. You're in love, but you've fallen out of love. Take your car to Edwardstown Mazda to see what it's really worth. Why risk selling your car privately when Edwardstown Mazda can give you a fair price on the spot? Do you still love your car? Why not upgrade to a new or pre-owned Mazda at Edwardstown Mazda, A62 South Road. Edwardstown Mazda, LMBD 207428.
Now, if you caught him last week, you would have heard that our good friend Fitzy reckons the best fish and chips in SA are at Port Noarlunga. And that's not because he's biased and loves the South. It's because they're the best.
That's right. He knows Port Noarlunga, but more importantly, he knows fish and chips. and that's why FIVEaa has picked Port Noarlunga Fish and Chips. Now, how's this? This year sees them celebrating 30 years manning the deep fryers. Port Noarlunga Fish and Chips have been family-owned and operated since 1992.
Yeah, they're masters of fresh-cut potato chips, fresh fish, delicious prawns and calamari. And is there anything better than a proper fish and chip shop, hamburger or gyros? I would say no, there isn't.
Well, actually, I'd reckon the one thing that is, if not better than just as good, is a proper homemade potato fritter. And after 30 years, Port Noarlunga Fish and Chips, how many million potato fritters would that be?
It'd be a lot. I have to do some calculations. You've really caught me on the hop there. But they've done a wonderful job. Think of how much chicken salt they've been through. Let's get really granular with it.
Tons. Make sure you eat at Port Noarlunga Fish and Chips this winter. Fantastic fish shop. Port Noarlunga Fish and Chips, 22 Saltfleet Street, just 30 minutes from the city.
Hi, Shayna Blaze here. As a designer, I know how tricky it can be to design the perfect bathroom. So I teamed up with Beaumont Tiles and created complete bathroom packages. Drop into Beaumont's for complete bathroom packages designed by me.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. Online, on DAB Digital Radio and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Partly cloudy and 15 with the 7 o'clock news. I'm Kendall Brettig.
Physio Extra is a registered NDIS provider, so let them support you in achieving your goals. physioextra.com.
Serious charges have now been laid against a truckie following Sunday's shocking crash at the bottom of the freeway. His truck ploughed into 7 cars and a bus, injuring 9 people. Senior Constable Dave Muir says the truckie was also taken to hospital.
Now, last night, that truck driver, a 60-year-old man from Queensland, was arrested and charged with acts to endanger life, 9 counts of dangerous driving causing harm, and a number of other traffic matters, including numerous national heavy vehicle offences. He's been refused bail and he'll front the Adelaide Magistrates Court later today.
The 74-year-old mystery of the Somerton man may have finally been solved. DNA taken from a sample of hair appears to have found a match. Professor Derek Abbott and his team from Adelaide Uni have spent years comparing his DNA to samples from people who've submitted theirs to genealogical sites, and they're 99% sure they now know who he was. Carl Webb, also known as Charles, was born in Victoria in 1905. Professor Abbott says he came to SA for a simple reason.
The most logical speculation is from the documentation that we found on historical records is he did separate from his wife, and it appears his wife moved here. So, join the dots, perhaps he was out to find her.
A toddler has died from coronavirus in Queensland. The 23-month-old passed away at Queensland's Children's Hospital on Sunday, becoming the youngest COVID death recorded in the state since the pandemic began. We had 3 COVID deaths here in SA yesterday, all aged in their 80s or 90s. 379 people remain in hospital, including 7 in ICU. 3,773 new cases were recorded. The annual inflation rate could officially reach a 32-year high. The Bureau of Statistics will release new data showing the effects of surging consumer prices in the June quarter. AMP Chief Economist Shane Oliver says the key issue to watch is whether it rises even higher than predicted.
But if inflation continues to surprise on the upside such that we push above the 7% Reserve Bank estimate by year end, then that just only adds to pressure on the Reserve Bank to keep raising interest rates and to raise them by more.
There are concerns footy fans will have to pay to use the Footy Express services from next season. Evidence provided to the Budget and Finance Committee in Parliament this week revealed the government will look to make the clubs fund the service. Shadow Sports Minister Vincent Tarzia says that will hit fans hard in the hip pocket.
Every year, more than 400,000 people use the free Footy Express to get to and from the Adelaide Oval. And we know that it saves the average family just over $300 per year to get to and from Adelaide Oval for minor round games.
Russia's announced it will withdraw from the International Space Station after 2024, ending a long-running era of cooperation with the US. More from Amelia Adams.
It's the end of an era, Moscow's space agency chief telling President Vladimir Putin Russia will pull out of the International Space Station sometime after 2024. It comes amid spiralling Russian-US relations and crippling sanctions imposed on Moscow over the war in Ukraine. It's not the first time Russia has threatened the move, and NASA says it's had no official notification. But Putin approved the decision, a major blow to international diplomacy. The ISS has survived every other conflict for more than 2 decades.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
10-year warranty and 10-year capped price servicing at Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Kendall. AFL great Lee Matthews says he felt sick when Jack Ginnivan wasn't awarded a free kick for the head-high tackle he received from Mason Redman. Matthews says it speaks to how the game is being handled on a broader level.
I thought to myself, what are they doing to our game? And when I say they, I mean Richard Gordon in the Commission, who are the only body that can actually change rules, and Gillon McLaughlin and his coaching cohort of advisors that are making the game easier for the tackler and harder for the bloke with the ball.
Meantime, the Crows will train tonight as they prepare for Saturday night's clash against Carlton. Adelaide looking to break a 4-game losing streak. Briefly, elsewhere, Nick Kyrgios is beginning his US preparation, the US Open preparation, earning a wild card in this week's Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati. Fellow Aussies Thanasi Kokkinakis and James Duckworth will also play this morning. England is through to the final of the Euro tournament after a 4-0 drubbing of Sweden. That's on the women's tournament. They'll now take on the winner of the other semi, which is being played between France and Germany. And in some cricket to finish, Sri Lanka holds the upper hand after day 3 of its test match against Pakistan in Galle. The home side reached 5 for 176 at stumps, giving them an overall lead of 323 runs with 2 days to play. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
At Lockleys, traffic lights playing up on Tapley's Hill Road near Sir Donald Brabham Drive. At Findon, gas replacement works, trimmer parade near Findon Road. That's affecting both directions. And in the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace. It's for the Illuminate Festival. Busy at the moment, South Road at Mile End with cameras Adams Road, Craigmore and Eastern Parade at Ottaway. From restaurants to hair salons and businesses in between, stop paying FPOS fees. No terminal rental, no merchant fees. Visit smartpay.com.au. Minimum turnover and T's and C's apply. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
3 out of 4 people never hear back from interviews. Shouldn't people matter more than that? Zoom Recruitment.
Partly cloudy and 15 today, a shower or 2 tomorrow, also 15, mostly sunny Friday, 15, then partly cloudy on Saturday up to 17. At the moment, 9. More news as it happens on 5AA.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
Seven minutes after 7. Coming up a little bit later this morning, the Premier of South Australia will join us live in the 5AA Breakfast studio. We're also going to catch up with Nolene Hunter, who is a breakfast TV host, singer, incredibly well known. And
breakfast TV host and singer.
Yeah, in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
We're going to speak with her about her experiences living there over the course of this incredible period of instability that they've been going through with, you've had the Prime Minister and President fleeing the country, one living on a Navy vessel to avoid the hordes of people that have occupied the presidential palace and so forth. You had rationing of fuel and
inflation. There's 50%.
Yeah. It's just they've had to ration fuel because there's just not enough in the country.
Unbelievable.
We'll talk about what the experience has been like, and after 8:30, really looking forward to that chat. But let's get into some of the news stories that are very much fresh in our minds. Starting with one. Its start date is the 1st of December 1948. That is when the Somerton Man was found on Somerton Beach. The mystery has potentially now been solved. Professor Derek Abbott from Adelaide University says he's identified the Somerton Man, and he spoke at length with Matthew Pantelis on the 5AA Evening Show last night.
We've been working on this now at Adelaide Uni for, 15 years, and about 2011, the police kindly let us have access to the Somerton Man's hair, which was in the police museum. And so we've been at the uni trying to extract DNA from it all these years, it's a very tough problem getting it out of old hair. But the technology has improved dramatically over the years. And finally, we had enough refinement that by about February this year, we were ready to go and use that DNA to find a nearest cousin.
Interesting the degree to which genealogical sites online, where people have done that. You've done this, I think, haven't you? Where you've looked back to see what your ancestry is. I bet we've got a stack of listeners who've done.
Have you ever
that.
done it?
No, I haven't done it. But
we did one of those ancestry kits.
Yeah, well, people giving 4%, DNA.
4% Senegalese.
There, that's
How about that?
Quite exotic. But people doing that, providing DNA to those websites, is a database that people like Derek Abbott can now say, well, is anyone close? We can approximate a match to this, and they started building family trees that way. It turns out, if this is true, and it sounds like it is, there's no reason to doubt it, it's a far less exciting story than the one we might have imagined it being a spy. And
so what was the little piece of paper on his inside jacket pocket said what? Taman Shud?
Taman Shud from the Rubaiyat, yeah.
The Rubaiyat being a Persian poem?
Yes.
And there were reports that it could have been some sort of international spy ring, or that he was having some dalliance with a lady of the night and got whacked by the mob. It seems like a much more pedestrian tale now, doesn't it?
Yeah, he came over from Victoria to find an ex-partner. It's like an everyday story, just had a pretty unique and remarkable end.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'll quell the conspiracies. I suspect not.
Carl Charles Webb.
Rex Hunt brandished a small pitchfork and asked motorists, do you want to die, during a confrontation in Victoria. Have a listen.
I want to die down the toilet, and in that moment, had he been offered me a bottle of sleeping pills, I might well have come to die. Rex, just leave him, Rex.
Yeah, so the road rage incident captured by a dash cam, you can hear some radio in the foreground of that. You can just make out a voice saying, do you want to die, in the background. That's courtesy of 9 News. Basically what happened is there was some sort of incident that police are investigating to get to the bottom of. The 2 men got out of a car. One was Rex Hunt. The other one had a swing at him. He calmly went back to his car, retrieved a pitchfork, and then...
Hang on, Rex Hunt retrieved the pitchfork?
Yes.
What have you got a pitchfork in your car for?
No,
like a garden fork?
Like a garden.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he wasn't, going to a medieval protest.
Off to, burn some witches or something
No,
like that.
no. It was just doing gardening.
Yibbity yibbiter.
So, yeah, there wasn't a lot of yibbity yibbiter about that.
Better be careful, mate. Maybe this is what happens after years of high-energy football commentary. It's what it does to a man. You eventually crack.
Well, that'll fishing.
You're running around.
That'll fishing. It's a Venn diagram.
Freeway holding a pitchfork.
It's a Venn diagram occupied at its centre by Rex Hunt and Stephen Rowe, fishing and football commentary. So, look out, Rowie. The debate is on at the moment. Well, not the debate, but there's been 2 debates now between the last 2 candidates standing to become the next Prime Minister of the UK, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. Liz Truss, for what it's worth right now, is the better favourite. Rishi Sunak more popular amongst his colleagues, but now the vote goes to Conservative Party members who seem to favour Liz Truss in her message about tax cuts. Well, Liz Truss was in the middle of responding to a question in the second debate when something brought the debate to a halt in a pretty extraordinary way.
If he succeeds in Ukraine, he's not going to stop there. He's going to challenge the freedom and democracy.
The sound you can hear there is debate moderator, Talk TV political editor Kate McCann fainting in the middle of the answer. And it wasn't a gentle sort of fall to the ground
It sounds
faint.
like she's done a number
She
on herself.
completely collapsed. You can see from Liz Truss's reaction that she figured the worst. She looked horrified
Thought she'd
and then
died.
went over to render assistance. It was all caught on, this is TV. Everyone's watching the debate. One of these 2 people is going to be the Prime Minister of the country.
Is she all right?
She is all right. That's the good news out of this story. She's okay, recovering well, but pretty
Can't
extraordinary.
be much of a debate.
No, it wasn't. You reckon she might have just nodded off?
Genuinely enough to put you to sleep. Not just to sleep, actually into a proper coma. I must admit, I've been to a few political events over the years where I've been thinking, why am I here? What am I doing?
Just wanted to nod off?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not so quite so dramatically as that one.
No, that's right.
It's coming up to 14 minutes to 7. 8223 0000 is our name. You can text us as well on the Automasters text line.
Luke wants to know if Rex Hunt kissed his pitchfork after he threatened the bloke.
He certainly didn't kiss the bloke involved, I can tell you that much.
He did try to throw him back. One here, hi Will, and welcome back, Dave. Thanks for wearing masks. And anyhow, is a potato fritter what they call a scallop interstate? It is.
In some places interstate.
In Sydney, they call them potato scallops.
Yeah.
Never understood that.
Yeah.
A scallop is a sea creature. It's a bivalve.
My father and mother argue about this all the time.
Comes in a shell and it's got roe on it.
Yeah, she's always called it
Not
potato
Stephen
scallop.
Rowe, the orange stuff.
Yeah.
Potato scallop. It's just jarring.
14 after.
I'm on Graham's side.
Yeah, 14 after 7. Let's check traffic. Discover Bloom at Glenside, prestige apartments for discerning boomers. Register at bloomglenside.com.au.
Thanks, Will. At Findon, we've got gas replacement works this morning. That's Trimmer Parade near Findon Road. That's affecting both directions at the moment. In the Parklands, Rundle Road is still closed. That's between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace for the Illuminate Festival. At Woodville, works along Port Road heading inbound, causing a few delays this morning. That's near Cheltenham Parade, speeds at 40. And we're busy right now, Churchill Road at Cavan. Cameras, Fletcher Road, Birkenhead, and Midway Road at Elizabeth Park. It's the final week of Amart's winter warm-up sale. Stay cosy in style with up to 50% off a huge range. Hurry, offers end soon at Amart. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Leon Biner.
Rhonda Birchmore plays, I love these hard-to-pronounce names, Wilma von Tassel. Tell me, I just want to clear this up. Did you insure your legs?
Oh, look, it is a bit of a myth. There was rumour going around that my legs were insured for millions of dollars.
9 till 12 weekdays.
I figure, Leon, what use is a pair of good legs if the rest of you falls apart? So,
SSA as Leon Biner. SSA as AA.
When it comes to choosing a personal alert device, you want to make sure you pick a proven and tried system like the Care Alert Smart Dialer. In the event of an emergency, all it takes is a simple press on the SOS button and help will be on its way. Whether you're at home, out and about, travelling Australia, Care Alert has a system to suit your needs. Care Alert, your safety companion. Call 1300 75 85 95, 1300 75 85 95, or go to carealert.com.au.
Patience pays off, especially if you've been holding out for a great deal on a new Volkswagen. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen is now receiving truckloads of new Volkswagens. Yes, they're coming. And they're available at amazing prices. Remember Mawson Lakes Volkswagen for servicing too, with next day servicing and free loan cars. Get a great deal on Volkswagen now. Don't dilly-dally, dawdle or delay. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen, just a short drive from the city.
It isn't waste until you waste it. That's the catch cry from an amazing company called Eco Waste Solutions. Eco Waste Solutions is a hard waste recycling facility, not a dump, located at Williston. They'll take everything except hazardous waste and food scraps. They'll take your waste bricks, your mattresses, tyres, soil, timber, steel, concrete and more. Plus, if you pre-sort your load, you'll receive a 50% discount on disposal fees. Google Eco Waste Solutions Williston for more.
Silence. It's uncomfortable. We start to think. We start to wonder if something's wrong. If we're wrong. In silence, there's doubt. And it's silence that 3 out of 4 job seekers hear after applying for a job. People should matter more than that. Zoom Recruitment. Make people matter.
Are you not getting enough of the services you need from your current home care provider? As one of only a few home care providers offering true self-management, Homemade lets you choose the services you want from the huge range offered through a ready-to-go partner network of independent support workers. Better still, you could enjoy up to double the hours of support you currently get due to lower fees and charges. To find out more about switching your home care package, visit homemadesupport.com.au.
9 News has the experience to break the news. Made in Adelaide for Adelaide. 9 News. David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
18 minutes after 7, some 60,000 Australians served in Vietnam. And the first deployment marking Australia's role in Vietnam was sent some 60 years ago this Sunday. Gary Mackay served with distinction in Vietnam in 1971, was a platoon commander awarded with the Military Cross, and joins us now on 5AA Breakfast. Gary, good morning to you. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, g'day, mate. How are you?
We're good, thanks, Gary. This is a hugely important part of Australian history, and it's probably fair to say that both parts of Australia's deployment to Vietnam, in terms of first leaving and then returning, were shrouded in controversy. There was a huge row about conscription, and then there was the appalling treatment that many veterans received when they came back. What was your experience of the war like in terms of both of those things?
Yes, when they deployed, I was still at high school, and it wasn't until I was conscripted in 1968 that I realised what was going on. Until that time, I had no idea where Vietnam was. I didn't know which side of the equator it was on, and I really didn't understand what the war was about. And so when I was conscripted and then trained to go to Vietnam, I was very quickly made aware of what was going on. As you said, the country was seriously divided, split up to guts, I reckon. And even people in my own surf club were against people going, even though I rode surf boats with these guys and did all sorts of things. But it was a very divisive thing. And then, when we came home, it was shameful. There was even a time in Canberra in 1972 when you were told not to wear uniform on public transport. And I just thought that was terrible. I just thought it was terrible.
Gary, I was speaking to a Vietnam vet about a week ago about this very, very point, and he made the point, I'm interested in your insight on this as well, whether your attitude to the war changed. Because he said when he was over there serving, well, you were all for the cause and you were right behind it, but then you'd read the newspapers from home and come home and see protests from students and so forth. And then in subsequent years, he ended up being on the other side of the equation and feeling almost ashamed for going over there and serving. Did you follow a similar journey?
I wouldn't say ashamed. We were told a great shining lie about what it was all about. I mean, if you go back in history, the French, if they'd done the right thing in 1947 and supported nationalism with Ho Chi Minh, we wouldn't have had the war, which really I think was a civil war, in Vietnam. And the problem was, when you're there with a rifle in your hand and out in the jungle, it's not a time for industrial democracy or politics. It's a case of keeping yourself and your mates alive and doing your job.
Can I ask you, Gary, have you ended up like meeting and even befriending some of the Vietnamese men that you fought against?
Oh, absolutely. I wrote my autobiography in 1987 and it became a bestseller. And then I wrote another book, and the War Memorial offered me a research grant. So I went and studied Vietnamese language at the School of Modern Languages in Queensland, where I was living. And I went back to do some research in Vietnam, and that's when I started running into people I'd actually fought against. And I was treated amazingly well. I was surprised, and I asked, why is this? Why do you, I invaded your country and, blah, blah. And they said, we respect the Australian soldiers because you buried our dead, you took care of our wounded, you tried to do something for the people of Vietnam in the south, in the provinces, and you did not commit atrocities. And that summed it up. And I could sit down and have a beer or even play a game of tennis with guys that actually tried to shoot my boss out of the sky one day. And we've both come to realise, we toast the fact that we're still vertical, but we both realised we were just doing what our governments asked us to do.
Well, that's it, isn't it? The old, what's the saying, ours is not the reason why, ours is but to do or die. Like the soldiers don't set policy that they have to sort of implement it at its most brutal level on behalf of governments.
It's true, yeah. It's true.
So on the 60th anniversary of Australian deployment, Gary, when school kids turn up in high school and are taught about Australians in theatres of war, be it the Western Front in the First World War, Burma in the Second World War, or Vietnam, how should the Vietnam veterans of Australia be thought about and remembered?
I think they were asked to do a job to support the South Vietnamese. Now, that's a bit wobbly behind that because, in fact, the Australian government asked the Americans to ask the South Vietnamese to invite us into the war because we wanted the Americans in our backyard as an insurance policy because the Brits had all gone east of Suez, they'd all gone back home. So I think people should look at the Australian involvement in Vietnam as one of trying to assist the South Vietnamese in a war where everyone was worried about communism, the spread of communism, and look at it in that light. It is really hard in just a couple of sentences to drop a finger on it and say this is why we were there and this is what we did. It's a very complicated setup. But the thing that I always come back to was that the men that I served with and led in South Vietnam did their job to the best of their ability, and they did it with honour. And that was the other thing. They did it with honour.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Really great to speak to you on the on the cusp of this occasion. It's the 60th anniversary this Sunday. Gary Mackay, our guest on
He's fascinating.
Breakfast. Yeah, absolutely.
You think about that time, like, you know, what was that shocking chant? Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? You know, that was happening, like, down the road on North Terrace. Now, I can understand, like, how head up some of the protesters got about conscription, and there were people who were called up and didn't want to go and thought this is a foreign policy war. But Gary's point then is actually, like, with the benefit of hindsight, like, it's important to have a really nuanced discussion around it because you could understand when you'd seen Cuba fall into the arms of the Soviets. You'd had the missile crisis. You'd had flare-ups in Czechoslovakia where the Soviets had put down attempts at democracy. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff going on at the time that said we do not want communism to spread. So you can understand the policy thinking behind it. But I thought what he said about the history of the Viet Cong, Viet Minh, all of that, and how the French had sort of stuffed up their post-colonial exit. It was an incredibly important point. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the soldiers who are out there. None of them were responsible for any of this.
No, that's right. All right, let's turn our attention to sport. Book your service online at North Point Toyota to win the cost back. It is the North Point way. Last night on Roey's program, at Neil Curley's state funeral, Graham Corns had a quick chat with Gil McLachlan, and gave him a quick jab regarding South Australia and the upcoming AFL TV deal. Have a listen.
Gillan, what are you doing with the broadcast? Like, he's good-natured. He said, well, why are you so special? Like, South Australia, why are you so... I said, because we have had a covenant. It was set in stone when the Crows and Port Adelaide came in that we would have these games on free to air. That's our covenant. It doesn't matter what happens in Victoria. We're standing by one of the cabinets there with the jumpers and trophies and up by
as you walk in, luckily to the
and he said, look at this cabinet. How beautifully is it made? Oh, he threw me a little bit. I said, yeah, well, it's made nicely. He said, well, do you think they would have made this last century? This is a modern piece of work. You've got to move with the times. I thought, hang on.
Where's he going?
Gillan, 100 years ago, artisans would have made beautiful copies of this.
Not a good analogy, Gil.
So he... I don't know whether we're going to have much luck with that. I think they're going to take the money and we're going to have to suck it up.
Yeah, I think he's ultimately right, but good at him for flying the flag for South Australia.
Absolutely.
28 minutes after 7, that's Stephen Rowe's Sports Show. There'll be more to come tonight. Book your service online at North Point Toyota to win the cost back. It is the North Point way.
5AA's Tech Talk with your host, Adelaide Tech Guy Richard Pascoe. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Who would have thought you could get a gaming notebook for under $900? Well, yes you can at Harvey Norman. The Acer Nitro 5 with 15.6-inch screen, dedicated NVIDIA GTX 1650 graphics card will deliver immersive visuals. It is driven by a powerful Intel i5 CPU, includes 16 gig of RAM and a 512 gig solid-state drive. The Acer Nitro has a minimalist design and a full backlit RGB keyboard combined with a user-friendly interface. The Acer Nitro 5 has a full HD resolution display for smooth and detailed visuals when gaming or multimedia content. Get into your local Harvey Norman store now to grab one of these Acer Nitro gaming computers for only $898.
Check out this great offer at FIVEaa.com.au. Thanks to Harvey Norman Computers.
Now, waiting for your dream car can be frustrating. If you've been on the hunt, you'll know that the biggest issue is stock. Well, that's all changed at Mawson Lakes Mazda. The fresh new batch has just arrived. Trucks started rolling in this week.
It's great news because a lot of people have been waiting months and months for a new Mazda. Now you can take your pick. Mawson Lakes Mazda, they've got the full range to choose from. There's the CX-30, CX-5, CX-8, CX-9 and the BT50, all available right now. Plus, new stock means you'll also find heaps of current demos are priced to clear. They won't last long, though, so don't dawdle.
Get behind the wheel of your dream Mazda sooner with great deals on new Mazdas and run-out prices on demo stock. Mawson Lakes Mazda, just a short drive from the city.
Business NBN can help give you the edge because it's made for businesses' evolving needs. You can choose from a range of high-speed plans and business-grade support, and it's all available from a range of providers. To find out more, search Business NBN. Made for more. Your experience may vary depending on your provider, plan, busy periods, when you use the internet and other factors.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Partly cloudy and 15 with the 7:30 news. I'm Kendall Brettig.
Looking for the perfect winter exercise? Physio Extra offers clinical Pilates at 6 locations. physioextra.com.
An unlicensed truckie's now been charged over Sunday's crash at the bottom of the freeway. His truck slammed into 7 cars and a bus, leaving 9 people injured. The 60-year-old from Queensland will face the Adelaide Magistrates Court today on a number of charges, including acts to endanger life, dangerous driving and driving unlicensed. Human remains will be examined after being found at Williamstown. Just after 1 yesterday, a member of the public made the discovery in the Hale Conservation Park. Senior Constable Dave Muir says an investigation's underway.
We're having our forensic experts attending this morning, along with additional police and SES volunteers who are going to assist with the search. We expect probably to commence around 8:30 this morning.
A team of scientists from Adelaide Uni believe they've solved the mystery of the Somerton man, whose body was found propped up against a seawall at Somerton in 1948. They've spent years comparing DNA from a sample of hair to DNA submitted to genealogy sites by people trying to find out more about their families. Professor Derek Abbott from Adelaide Uni says they're more than 99% sure of his identity.
Although he was born Carl Webb, he actually went by the name Charles Webb. He was born in 1905 in Footscray, Victoria, and he is in a family of 6 siblings. He's the only one with no date of death.
It's believed he came to SA to try to find his wife who'd left him. Economists are warning the Reserve Bank could be forced to take more dramatic action on interest rates if inflation rises more than expected. The official figures for the June quarter will be released this morning in a tip to show the annual inflation rate above 6%. AMP Chief Economist Shane Oliver says there's always a chance the increase could exceed expectations.
I think, though, the risk is probably on the upside. You know, we know these numbers are rising, so that shouldn't come as a surprise. But we've seen in many countries around the world that inflation has surprised on the upside over the last few months, and we may be no exception to that.
The federal government will introduce legislation to abolish the cashless debit card 7 years after it was first established. The card gives the government the power to control how some welfare recipients spend 80% of their payments. Currently, the card can't be used for gambling or alcohol, but Labor says people should be able to determine for themselves how they spend the money. Talk footy fans could have to pay for Footy Express public transport services has been shut down by the state government. The opposition suggested the clubs would be made to fund the services. But Labor says it has no plans to pass on the full cost of the Footy Express to the clubs or their supporters. Donald Trump has returned to the podium in Washington, D.C. for the first time since leaving office. More from Amelia Adams.
The former president took to the stage at the America First Agenda Summit, slamming the Biden administration for bringing the economy and the country to its knees, before again insisting he won the 2020 presidential election.
I always say I ran the first time and I won. Then I ran a second time and I did much better. We got millions and millions more votes.
Focusing on crime and law enforcement, Trump called for the death penalty for drug dealers and said the National Guard should be sent in to patrol dangerous neighbourhoods, before teasing a possible third run for the White House in 2024.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
New Mitsubishi Triton with 10-year warranty, 10-year capped price servicing at Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Kendall. The Crows and Port Adelaide will play each other on Saturday night in the final round of the season. The full fixture has been released by the AFL for round 23, with Brisbane and Melbourne to kick things off on Friday night at the Gabba, while the showdown will begin at 7 p.m. on Saturday, August 20. Still on footy, Western Bulldogs forward Jamara Ugle-Hagan has revealed he stopped enjoying football for a period and struggled to find a work-life balance before his recent emergence on the AFL stage.
It was hard to find balance between my friends off-field and my mates in the football club. Come in as a number 1 draft pick, missed my whole Year 12 year. Yeah, so it was tough in the time, but I'm starting to have fun with football. I found it hard that I felt a moment where I was like not enjoying it.
Audio there thanks to Fox Footy. The 20-year-old is the round 19 Rising Star nominee after booting 5 goals last week. Well, Brisbane Lions player Cam Rayner is calling for fans to be patient with forward Eric Hipwood. There's been critics of Hipwood's form after his return from a serious knee injury. Rayner, who himself suffered an ACL last year, says it can take time to return to the top form after a knee reconstruction.
It's probably a lot easier to say that sitting from the couch when you haven't gone through it yourself. I feel like he's been copying a little bit of heat when, it's a lot harder for a bloke of that size and to come back from that injury, and he's starting to find some form.
Briefly elsewhere, WNBA franchise the LA Sparks have granted Australian basketballer Liz Cambage a release from her contract, and England has booked its place in the final of the Women's Euros after beating Sweden 4-0. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now to the traffic.
At Findon, gas replacement works on Trimmer Parade near Findon Road. That's affecting both directions. In the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace for the Illuminate Festival. At McGill, intersection upgrade works continue there. McGill Road near St Bernard's Road. And we're busy right now, South Road at Mile End. Cameras, Eastern Parade, Ottaway and Ridley Grove at Ferreton Park. Enjoy chicken meal like no other from Oporto. Whole succulent chicken, flame grilled and basted with your choice of sauce and 2 delicious sides. All for just $24.95. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
3 out of 4 people never hear back from interviews. Shouldn't people matter more than that? Zoom Recruitment.
Partly cloudy and 15 today, a shower or 2 tomorrow, also 15, mostly sunny for Friday, 15, and then partly cloudy Saturday up to 17. At the moment, 9. More news as it happens on 5AA.
When you sign with some of the big builders, it can be a bit of a fanfare. Until you have questions. At Lamar Homes, we've got nothing to hide. We're about people, not numbers. So we're always here to answer questions, even the tough ones. lamarhomes.com.au. Here today, home tomorrow.
Connect with Beaumont Tiles and grow your business. Go to iCanWin.com.au. You could win a $25,000 advertising boost to take your business to the next level, supported by Beaumont Tiles. Builders, renovators, tilers, enter now. iCanWin.com.au.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
22 minutes to wait. We've got Frozen tickets to give away again this morning. These go quick, so when you hear the show freeze over, make sure you're the first to call in on 8223 0055. Frozen the musical must leave Adelaide next week. Don't miss this hit Broadway musical with great seats. Still available, under $100. Book at ticketek.com.au or just listen out for the show freezing over. That's going to happen in just a few moments' time. I thought hell was freezing over when I read the lead of page 3 in the Advertiser this morning that Adelaide Oval wants to bring back the tinny. They've moved to change the liquor licence so they could potentially sell beer in aluminium cans. The Police Association have spoken to the police minister and said, we need to step in on this. This doesn't work. They are potential projectiles. They injure people. There's a reason we've moved away from it. I suspect part of the motivation to move back towards the tinny is environmental. It's the single-use plastics that that perhaps the venue wants to do away with.
Probably too the fact that there's so many great beers now being sold in cans. I mean, you know, think about something as iconic as the old Cooper's Pale Ale, always sold in the green bottle. It's great in cans. A lot of the micro breweries, like at the Beer and Barbecue Festival, they were selling heaps of beers in tins. But I got to say, I totally sympathise with the concerns of the police union because you think about the history of it. You think about those really stinking hot nights like at the MCG in the golden era of one-day cricket. You know, it looked like the Somme. There's cans flying everywhere.
Well, I think the end of the story should be I think it's the fourth par. A trial has been held at several grounds in Melbourne, including the MCG in Marvel, for several months. But Victorian Police Association Secretary Wayne Gatt said there'd already been incidents of injuries caused by spectators throwing cans, including one woman who's suing over injuries she sustained to her eye.
Yeah.
I'd say that's an unsuccessful trial.
It sounds like an unsuccessful trial. And look, historically, it's been the cops have been on the receiving end of it. Well, not just the police. There was, I reckon, I'm not sure if he's still with us, but the English bowler, John Snow, he was famously fielding down at Long On after he'd finished a spell at the Adelaide Oval in the 1960s, and someone affecting a Pommy accent called out to him saying, John, you must be thirsty," and handed him a can of beer that didn't have beer in it.
Oh, God. 82230000 is the number. Do you think aluminium cans are okay to bring back, or is it a bad idea? Good idea, bad idea. Let's make it really simple.
There was a one of those "has the whole world gone mad" type headlines in the 1970s when it was announced that they were bringing in a limit on how much booze you could take to the cricket, and the limit was going to be a slab per person.
It's just extraordinary.
24 cans.
Extraordinary. 82230000. Good idea, bad idea. Tinnings at the football. At Adelaide Oval, could be, I guess, for the cricket as well. You can text us as well on the Automasters text line, 0448 08 1395. And we'll collate it. We'll get a bit of sense what the FIVEaa breakfast audience would vote on this one. Speaking of which, let's get to some texts on the Automasters text line.
Like this one, cuts to the chase. Wally the Walnut says, "Cornsy, you're wasting your time. Gill's a Victorian now. He doesn't care." And our great friend Jane with a Y, talking about scallops in the context of potato scallops, which are, of course, known locally as potato fritters. Jane says scalloped is also an embroidery term. For example, the quilt has pretty scalloped edges and intricate quilting. So when you have scalloped potatoes, they're sliced thinly and placed to form a scallop pattern. There you go, David. Another mystery solved for you. And a big cheerio to Kathy on Facebook, who says, "Morning, David and Will. Listening to you while sitting in bed with my first cup of coffee for the day." Good on you.
Dean says, "Bad idea." Thank you, Dean. I reckon we're going to get about 90% bad idea on this front. I'm not sure who's passionately defending the aluminium can.
No.
Maybe some environmentalists. Maybe some people will say the risk of injury is worse.
There might
than,
be a few hairy-chested libertarians
killing
out
dolphins
there
or
saying,
something.
"Oh, come on, let it rip." But the one thing I can't understand is why the beer snake gets banned, though. I think that's quite entertaining when people stack all the beer cups up and put them together.
Yeah, if it's not in anyone's way.
Ben in Royston Park, in these inflationary times, makes an excellent point, saying, "Forget the cans. Why don't we just get decent beer at a reasonable price?" I think that's probably a much more pressing concern.
Mark says on Twitter, think about the profits, 10 cents per can. Maybe that's something of the motivation for it.
Well, yeah, that might be
Maybe
part
you don't
of it.
get much for a plastic cup. We've spoken at length on the program over the course of the last week about the threat of foot and mouth disease to Australia's livestock industry. What we haven't spoken about too much, though, is threat to other industries that rely on the health and well-being of animals, like our zoos. Melbourne Zoo has taken steps to prevent the disease getting in there, taking precautions for people that have travelled to Bali in Indonesia, people that have been out on farms too. There's question marks about whether they can enter zoos at the moment. Last night, the Adelaide Zoo had a meeting too to talk about measures that might be taken here, and Dr. Phil Ainsley, the director of the Adelaide Zoo, joins us on FIVEaa Breakfast. Doctor, good morning to you.
Good morning, David. Good morning, Will. How are you both?
We're good, thanks, Dr. Ainsley. So what's the resolution of the zoo when it comes to foot and mouth disease?
Look, at this point in time, obviously, we're taking very seriously the threat of foot and mouth to Australia. But we've been working incredibly closely with PIRSA and the Chief Veterinary Officer, along with zoos around Australia, understanding what the current threat is. Obviously, it's been something we've been watching since the outbreak started over in Indonesia in early May. But at this point in time for us at Zoo South Australia, so both our sites at Adelaide and Monarto, it really is business as usual. We're obviously very mindful of understanding what that threat is, definitely having conversations with our staff about where they've travelled to and in terms of what they wear when they come to work, so making sure they've got clean clothes and clean footwear on, but there's no restrictions for any visitors coming to either of our sites at this point in time.
So when you say clean clothing and footwear, can you give a bit more detail about that, Doctor? Because is that meaning like if you come from like a farm or is it more if you come from overseas, that would be the issue?
Yeah, at this point in time, our focus would really be on people coming from overseas.
Right.
So I think the key bit of information is there's no active cases of foot and mouth in Australia at this point in time. And for us, what we do, we have a plan that determines on the risk. So if, for example, there's a threat now in Indonesia, which is fairly close to Australia, that's something we're considering. If there was to become foot and mouth in Australia, we would definitely go to a next level of implications. And then if there was something closer to the zoo, it would be a next level again. So at this point, our focus is really people returning back from Indonesia in terms of where they've been and understanding that.
Can all species get foot and mouth disease, Doctor?
No, they can't. So there are some species which can be carriers, but the key focus of what we refer to sort of clothed and hoofed animals. So people will be really familiar with cattle and sheep and pigs and goats. But there are a number of animals that we have across both of our sites. So some of our deer species, antelopes, potentially giraffe, things like elands up at Monarto, camels. So there's a range of species that can get it, but there's also a number of species that can't.
What about the tapirs? Will they be in the frame?
Potentially they are. So tapirs and bears. So there's a range of species we're mindful of. And if we get to that point, there's a number of things we can do. There are vaccinations overseas at the moment that are being used, and that's something that's being rolled out across Indonesia to try and sort of protect the livestock market there. So there's a number of things that we could consider if we get to that point.
Great stuff. Dr. Phil Ainsley, the Director of the Adelaide Zoo, thanks for joining us this morning.
So business as usual at the zoo, at least for now.
I love those tapirs. Funny looking things, aren't they?
I'm not sure what a tapir is.
Yeah,
sounds like something you take a worming tablet for.
They're those whopping great anteaters from South America.
Okay.
They're under the howler monkeys at the zoo, under that huge Moreton Bay fig. I think there's two of them.
No, I haven't been to the zoo as recently as you have, so you'll forgive me for my lack of knowledge about the geography of the zoo.
I love that place. We went there for the Illuminate the other night, which was great. There were hundreds of people there. That was a freezing cold Sunday night before we came back to work.
All right, let's check traffic.
Briefly in my case.
That's right. Discover Bloom at Glenside, prestige apartments for discerning boomers. Register at bloomglenside.com.au.
At Medini Gardens, city-bound delays from an earlier crash, Main North Road near Nottage Terrace. At Findon, you'll find gas replacement works there. Trimmer Parade near Findon Road, that's affecting both directions. And in the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace. It's for the Illuminate Festival. Busy right now, South Road at Mylene with cameras, Anderson Walk, Smithfield Plains, and Eastern Parade at Ottawa. SA's fastest supercars race is back. OTR the Bend Super Sprint this Friday till Sunday at the Bend Motorsport Park. Get your tickets now at Ticket Tech. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Budget car and truck rental make life easy. Whether you need to move equipment, furniture, fresh produce or people, you'll find the widest variety of vehicles at competitive prices at Budget Car and Truck Rental. With 7 convenient locations across the metro area, plus regional locations, you'll find a budget near you. So if you're moving out or in, taking a load to the tip or going on a big trip, do it with Budget Car and Truck Rental. Call 13 27 27. That's 13 27 27.
The Adelaide Central Market is open and it's not going anywhere. You might notice some changes as the exciting new market expansion gets underway. But don't worry, your favourite traders, your weekly fruit and veg, your fresh seafood and morning coffees aren't going anywhere. It might be expanding, but the market you know and love is open throughout all stages of construction with easy undercover parking. Shop at the Adelaide Central Market, trading as always Tuesday to Saturday.
Patience pays off, especially if you've been holding out for a great deal on a new Volkswagen. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen is now receiving truckloads of new Volkswagens. Yes, they're coming. And they're available at amazing prices. Remember Mawson Lakes Volkswagen for servicing too, with next day servicing and free loan cars. Get a great deal on Volkswagen now. Don't dilly-dally, dawdle or delay. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen, just a short drive from the city.
Do you want fresh filtered water flowing through your home? Choose a system by Complete Home Filtration. Joining me from Complete Home Filtration is Suzanne Dodds, who incidentally won the Telstra 2022 Business Awards. So what's the benefits of filtered water, Suzanne?
Well, the benefits of filtering water for the whole home mean that you don't just enjoy filtered water for drinking, but for showering and bathing as well. So people see big differences in softer skin, softer hair, unlimited bottled water, quality water from every tap.
That sounds great. So where can we purchase one?
You can just jump online and go to completehomefiltration.com.au.
That's completehomefiltration.com.au.
Taste, feel, see the difference.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
10 to 8, John Blake coming up in just a moment. We'll have breaking at 8 after 8 o'clock, featuring the Premier of South Australia, Peter Mananauskas, who's been away for a couple of weeks on holiday. Lots to talk to him about after 8, so make sure you stick around for that. And then we'll play a little bit more of Dr. Derek Abbott from Adelaide University last night, who caught up with Matthew Pantelis about unmasking the Somerton man, getting to the bottom of that mystery. That'll be absolutely fascinating to listen to, and we'll talk a little bit about that, probably at around 8:20ish in the next hour.
That was great that Pants pulled that off last night. That was a coup, getting Derek Abbott on, because the story broke really late. The Tigers are scrambled and got it in. They've got a good account of it on page 9, but for Pants to get the first interview with Derek Abbott was excellent, and it's going to be good to play some of that again for the benefit of people who weren't listening last night.
Now, the Undie Drive is back for 2022. This is we kick this into Warp Drive next week. We're getting behind, of course, our great friends at the Hutt Street Centre in Catherine House, raising funds to provide clean underwear for those who are less fortunate. I think we've proven over the last few years the Undie Drive is not unstopped by pandemic. No. By difficult economic circumstance, no. Inflation, earthquakes,
hugely important
natural disasters.
No,
the Undie Drive is an irresistible force.
You can't stop the Undie Drive.
You can't stop the Undie Drive.
Borrow a line from the village people. That was it was a huge credit to our listeners. A few weeks ago, had the honour of going down to Government House with Her Excellency Frances Adamson, where she presented 5AA with the award for the biggest amount of money that was generated for Catherine House, and that was all down to 5AA listeners. From memory, it was more than 50 grand, I think, all up. There was a whole stack of money. And, you know, to put it in its human context, and you think about how cold it is at the moment, like would be bad enough living out on the street. But just in terms of the total lack of creature comforts, and this might sound sexist, but I'll say it anyway, particularly being a woman, you worry more about that type of stuff. You know, guys almost take pride in the fact that they're, you know, bit sort of hygienically sort of slobbish at times. But if you're a woman, and particularly say you find yourself out on the street because you're married to a brute of a bloke who's been beating you up, and you don't have access to, you know, nice briefs and bras and things like that, then the fact that you can get a brand new packet through the generosity of people who've donated is something that makes life feel more like it should be, more normal.
Yep. And not to mention biological differences as well.
Indeed.
Next week, one of the parts, the way in which this works is a number of different avenues to raising money. The hub of it all, HQ for our Undy Drive, is 5AAundydrive.com.au, which is where, thanks to our great friends at the Turf Farm, you can go and donate cash, which is great, because then Catherine House and Hutt Street Centre can use that however they will like. The other avenue, which was a disturbing development last year, was there is a list of things that are being devised. I've become aware of this. I don't know what they are specifically, but they generally target people who work here at 5AA,
I know.
putting us in situations we might otherwise not like.
Like that
for a good
statement
cause.
I had to read out saying that I thought that Norwood were the legitimate winners of the 1978.
Except you didn't do it. You refused to do it.
Well, at least I coughed up the money myself to avoid. I think I paid $500 out of my own pocket.
Well, we don't care how the money gets raised.
Right.
We're just trying to raise as much as humanly possible. So next week's going to be really fun on 5AA. All we need you to do is plug that website into your browser, so it's got it saved in there. 5AA Undy Drive, FIVEaa undydrive.com.au. And again, huge shout out to the excellent people at the Turf Farm. Tough South Australian turf, supporting South Australians doing it tough.
Great business.
For getting on board. It's no small act of generosity supporting the Undy Drive. You need to chip in a lot, and they have, and they've facilitated the whole thing. So a big thanks to the Turf Farm as well. But you're going to be hearing more about the Undy Drive over the course of the next week. And next week, we start taking money. We'll get that tally ticking over. We'll hopefully raise as much money as possible for Hutt Street Centre and Catherine House. It's time for John Blake, thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions, interstate freight, distribution, warehousing and local Adelaide couriers. Call Aussie Fast, 13 13 64.
Yes, Steph?
Good morning, Premier. The Minister for Transport and Infrastructure, Tom Coutson-Tonis, is here to see you.
Oh, okay.
Does he require a mask to enter your office?
No.
You're so brave. I'll send him in. You can go in.
Thanks, Steph. Come in, Tom.
Hello, Premier Peter!
G'day, Tom.
Geez, we're getting a bit of flack over that Susana Suarez.
Oh, you mean the chief engineer of the
North-South Corridor project, that's right, Susana Suarez.
Yeah, that was a bit messy.
Well, it had to be done.
But you haven't actually said publicly why we sacked her.
No, the article in the paper just said that we gave her the option of resigning or being sacked.
Right.
And she told us that she would rather be sacked.
Right.
So we sacked her.
Yeah, might be an idea to tell the press why we sacked her.
It's none of their beeswax.
Well, it's their money, Tom.
Oh, big fizz.
Tom, we're leaving ourselves open to all sorts of suggestions of sexual discrimination.
Oh, look.
Thinking we know more about highly complex construction than she does.
Well, listen.
That we got rid of her because she was a Liberal appointment.
Yeah, well,
But a lot of the work will be in your electorate.
Furthest thing from my mind.
Really?
I didn't even know it was going through there.
Tom.
Well, whatever.
She's got excellent credentials.
Yeah, I know, but that's...
And if the press asks you why you got rid of her, what are you going to say?
I'll tell the truth.
Which is?
Well, budgetary constraints and timeline issues moving forward led to a review of the provisions of a sustainable infrastructure viability consideration as regards expediency and an overall reworking and revisualisation of the preponderant and fundamental development provisions led to an investigation involving the protagonist of the project, which ultimately led to her dismissal.
What does that mean?
We sacked her.
Okay.
You'll be hearing from the Premier himself after 8 o'clock.
That's right. Peter Malinowski's coming in for a chat about the CFMEU's donation to the Labor Party and the fact that the John Setka-led Victoria branch is now going to be running the construction union here in South Australia. There's been a number of stories about it over the last week, and it's going to be the first chance we've had to sit down with the Premier to walk through all of that. Now, I heard Blakey yesterday predicting I was going to come back and spend 3 hours talking about nothing but recipes. Let the record show that at 5 to 8, I haven't mentioned food once.
Is that because of Blakey, just to spite him?
Oh, I did mention a mango tree. I wasn't talking about how I'd made a mango salsa or a mango coulis or a mango cheesecake.
Yeah.
I just mentioned the tree.
I feel like you're building up to something here.
No, nothing to say about food. And I'm not even going to mention the fact that I lived in Mexico for a year in 1986.
I see. I mean, I think it might be a technicality, but you've blown both things. You've just done it.
What about Blakey? He did a whole sketch saying I got COVID at the aquarium, didn't he? Total nonsense. Total nonsense.
Oh, all right. Do you want him on? Do you want him under the grill for breaking it out?
I'm going to start texting him in a minute. How's he going though? He's clearly
He's fighting fit.
COVID.
He's back.
Didn't affect his sense of humour.
Back strength to strength.
Still as funny as a fit.
That's right. You'll hear more from John Blake coming up after 8:30.
It's like a sort of rolling. It's like a rolling reunion. Our workplace, isn't it? Like every other workplace in the land at the moment. It's like, hey, look who's back.
Yeah, and then there'll be someone else gone.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's back and who's out? In and out.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, we need like selection night for your business now.
Tag team.
Yeah, who's in, who's out.
Well,
Thursday night.
Everyone. We've had Sam was gone. Luce was gone.
Yeah, so's everyone.
This is the first time in 5 weeks that all of us have been together.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, it's coming up to 8 o'clock.
We should spend more time together.
We'll
get on quite well.
5AA News is coming up. The Premier of South Australia next.
Connect Hearing is the largest Australian provider of Lyric, the completely invisible hearing solution with fit and forget convenience that stays in your ear 24/7. Book your free 30-day Lyric trial now on 1300 520 804. T's and C's apply.
Hello, Frank Walker from National Tiles. Our famous July Spend and Save is on now. Yes, our famous July Spend and Save is the best National Tiles event of the year. Spend 1,000 and we'll only charge you $750. Or spend 4,000 and we'll only charge you $2,750. The National Tiles July Spend and Save is not to be missed. But you'll have to be quick. For full details, go to nationaltiles.com.au now and save. Conditions apply.
Are you feeling frustrated with the lack of transparency your current home care provider gives you over your funding? As one of only a few home care providers offering true self-management, Homemade manages and tracks your budget together with you, so you know exactly where your funding is going. Even better, you could enjoy up to double the hours of support you currently get due to lower fees and charges. To find out more about switching your home care package, visit homemadesupport.com.au and book a free consultation today.
20 years ago, Toyota set the standard for hybrid vehicles with the iconic Prius. Today, they're still leading the way with their Toyota hybrid technology for a cleaner, greener future for all Australians. Jarvis Toyota is Adelaide's home of hybrid. They can get you behind the wheel of your own small, medium or large sedan or SUV with best-in-class fuel economy. Work towards a better future together with Jarvis Toyota. South Road, Clovelly Park, Adelaide's home of hybrid.
9 News has the experience to break the news. Made in Adelaide for Adelaide. 9 News.
Online, on DAB Digital Radio and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Partly cloudy and 15 with the 8 o'clock news. I'm Kendall Brettig.
FIVEaa Extra is a registered NDIS provider, so let them support you in achieving your goals. FIVEaAextra.com.
A cyclist hit by a train at North Adelaide last month has died in hospital. It happened at the North Adelaide railway station on War Memorial Drive as the cyclist was crossing the tracks. The 64-year-old man from Westlake Shore suffered serious injuries and has died in the RAH. Court today for an unlicensed truckie accused of causing Sunday afternoon's multi-car crash at the bottom of the freeway. His truck ploughed into 7 cars and a bus, leaving 9 people injured, but amazingly no one was killed. The 60-year-old from Queensland's facing a long list of traffic-related charges, including acts to endanger life, dangerous driving and driving unlicensed. A search will begin this morning after human remains were found on the edge of the Barossa Valley. A member of the public made the discovery just after 1 yesterday afternoon in the Hale Conservation Park at Williamstown. Senior Constable Dave Muir says forensic experts will be at the scene today, along with extra police and SES volunteers.
Now, we are asking anyone with information that could assist police. Give us a call, please, at Crime Stoppers, 1800 333 000.
There's been a breakthrough in the mystery of the Somerton man. His body was found propped up against a seawall at Somerton in 1948. He's now been identified as Carl Webb, also known as Charles, who was born in Footscray, Victoria in 1905. Professor Derek Abbott and his team from Adelaide Uni have spent years comparing DNA from a piece of his hair to samples from people who've submitted theirs to genealogical sites. He says it was a painstaking process.
We've been trying to extract DNA from it all these years. And finally, we had enough refinement that we were ready to go and use that DNA to find a nearest cousin.
Economists are warning the Reserve Bank could be forced to take more dramatic action on interest rates if inflation rises more than expected. The official figures for the June quarter will be released this morning. They're expected to show the annual inflation rate above 6%. Labor will introduce its climate legislation to federal parliament today, but questions remain over whether it'll pass. More from Michael Packey in Canberra.
The federal government says it has a mandate to slash carbon emissions by 43% this decade. Labor doesn't need legislation to pursue the target, but believes enshrining it into law will provide business with greater certainty to invest in renewable technology. The opposition doesn't support the proposal, although some Liberals believe the coalition should back the policy. Without the opposition on board, the government is negotiating with the Greens to try and get its climate legislation over the line.
Every single passenger arriving from Indonesia is now required to walk over a sanitation footmat. The screening measure's been installed at each of Australia's international airports to stop foot and mouth disease entering the country. Labor has been criticised for being too slow to roll out the mats, but Agriculture Minister Murray Watt says he acted with haste.
Every single international airport in Australia has got footmats, and that's happened within a couple of weeks or so of the outbreak getting to Bali. Now, I know people would like them to be there the very next day, but the reality is these footmats are not the kind of things you can just roll down to Bunnings and pick up and throw in your ute.
While Adelaide Zoo hasn't ruled out putting restrictions in place in the event of an outbreak here, but for now it's business as usual. Director of Zoos SA, Dr Phil Ainsley, has told David and Will they are, however, taking the current threat very seriously.
We've been working incredibly closely with PIRSA and the Chief Veterinary Officer, along with zoos around Australia, understanding what the current threat is. Obviously, it's been something we've been watching since the outbreak started over in Indonesia in early May.
And a week after announcing her engagement, Adelaide fitness mogul Kayla Itsinas has announced she's expecting her second child. Already mum to 3-year-old Anna with her former partner, Itsinas says she can't wait to grow her family with Jay Woodruff and watch him become a dad. The 31-year-old developer of the Bikini Body Guide is due early next year. Now turning to FIVEaa Sport.
10-year warranty and 10-year capped price servicing at Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Kendall. There are reports Matt Crouch will be put up for a trade at the end of the season, with the 27-year-old struggling to keep his spot in the senior side this year. The former best and fairest winner has been dropped 3 times this season and is understood to have been told he's not a part of the club's long-term future. Meantime, the Crows' fixture for the final round of the season has been released, with Adelaide to take on Port Adelaide on Saturday night, August the 20th. That match is set to begin at 7 p.m. Meantime, Richmond's Tom Lynch is expected to return to the field for Sunday's match against Brisbane after recovering from a hamstring injury. That match will be Shane Edwards' 300th in the AFL. To soccer now, England is through to the Women's Euro final following a 4-0 rout of Sweden in their semi-final clash this morning. Substitute Alessia Russo putting in a contender for goal of the tournament with a stunning back heel.
What about that? That is absolutely sensational. One of the goals of the tournament, one of the goals of any tournament. Alessia Russo has back-heeled it and given England a 3-0 lead. That is stupendous.
Yeah, it was magnificent, that's for sure. Germany will take on France in the other semi-final tomorrow morning our time. To tennis, 3 Aussies in action at the Atlanta Open this morning, including South Aussie Thanasi Kokkinakis. Nick Kyrgios and James Duckworth will also play their first-round matches. And in some cricket, Sri Lanka has taken the upper hand in its test match against Pakistan in Galle. The home side reached 5 for 176 at stumps on day 3, giving them an overall lead of 323 runs with 2 days to play. And that's the FIVEaa Sport.
Now to the traffic.
At Matinee Gardens, city-bound delays from an earlier crash at Main North Road near Nottage Terrace. At Findon, gas replacement works there. Trimmer Parade near Findon Road affecting both directions. And in the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace. It's for the Illuminate Festival. Busy right now, South Road at Mile End with cameras Ridley Grove, Ferryden Park and Wommer Road at Penfield. Click Frenzy Due Love is on now, up to 80% off across all brands. Ends 11:30pm Thursday. Sign up for free to unlock exclusive discounts at clickfrenzy.com.au. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on FIVEaa.
3 out of 4 people never hear back from interviews. Shouldn't people matter more than that? Zoom Recruitment.
Partly cloudy and 15 today, a shower or two tomorrow, 15, mostly sunny Friday, 15 again, and then partly cloudy Saturday, 17. At the moment, 9. More news as it happens on 5AA.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
8 minutes after 8, break behind closed doors is coming up after 8:30. Also, we'll be speaking with Nolene Hunter, who is a massive name in Sri Lanka as a singer, a breakfast TV host, and just so happens to be the mother of one of our colleagues here at 5AA. We'll speak to her about the turmoil in that country and what it's like being living in a place where, I mean, we're talking about record inflation. We'll get some new figures out a little bit later today that might suggest it's at its highest point in 30 years. Well, by a factor of 6 or 7 times, theirs is higher than ours. And that's led to things like petrol rationing. The country's been unable to repay debt. It's an extraordinary situation that's led to the occupation of the presidential palace and leaders having to take refuge on Navy vessels away from protesters. It's just an extraordinary situation. We'll speak to her about that and get a sense of what it's like living in that country after 8:30 today. But first, it's time to go behind closed doors.
No, it's not.
Breaking it 8.
Breaking it 8.
You've been off. Well, I haven't had to do this. You've been off. Let's try that again. It's time for breaking it 8.
It's hard to flip the vibe from silly to
I haven't had to do
serious
this at 8
as a
o'clock.
result of that, Will. But no, thanks for that intro. Look, the biggest industrial story in South Australia for a while has been the fact that the John Setka-led Victorian branch of the CFMEU is now assuming formal control of the South Australian branch. At the same time, it has also emerged that in the days leading up to the South Australian election, the SA Labor Party received a $125,000 political donation from the Victorian CFMEU. We are joined this morning in the studio by the Premier, Peter Malinauskas, to walk through this and other issues. We're not going to spend the entire time talking about the CFMEU. But Premier, we appreciate you being here this morning, and clearly there's been a lot of strong coverage of this issue over the last week. Can I ask you, can I just take you back to January where you gave that speech to the Don Dunstan Foundation talking about political donations? Yes. And you said, if elected as Premier, you believe that there should be no more donations from unions or from big business to either side of politics.
Yes.
How does that donation sit with that pledge?
So our pledge, well, not our pledge, it's our policy, and we'll be introducing legislation into the Parliament ahead of the next state election that does ban donations, whether they be from unions or business, to political parties, because I believe that's the right thing to do. That's our policy. That will happen. But I did make it clear at the time, in the lead up to the election in March, we're going to play by the rules that exist and everyone has to abide by, which is what we did and what we will do. I mean, in March, we had an election to win. That policy would be ancient history now, and if we hadn't won the election, our ability to be able to institute that policy, it was obviously dependent and contingent upon winning the election. That's the way it works. And I'm pursuing it because I believe it's the right thing to do. But in the lead up to the election, we're playing by the rules that everyone has to abide by.
But
and that means you have to, in order to win an election campaign, you've got to fund an election campaign, and we were in receipt of donations just like every other political party in the lead up to the election. And I don't think there's any secret about the fact that unions, including the CFMEU, donate to the Labor Party as they do in South Australia, as they do around the country and always have.
But the way it's now panned out, where the most controversial and most militant arm of this union, the Victorian Union, is now running the union here in South Australia. Does it worry you that money now links you to those people?
No, not at all, because it doesn't.
It does if they.
Well, no. What worries me?
They've paid you $125,000.
They haven't paid me $125,000. Let's be clear about a couple of things. So, and this is important to work through, and I do appreciate the opportunity to do it. Top line, I am concerned about the Victorian branch of the CFMEU ostensibly taking over the South Australian branch of the CFMEU. The CFMEU has always donated to state political parties around the country, time immemorial, for as long as the Labor Party has existed, and that's true here in South Australia. But in South Australia, the branch of the CFMEU, and I'm not a student of this, so if I get this wrong, there might be someone out there who can correct me, but the South Australian branch of the CFMEU has always been affiliated to the Labor Party, as far as I know, and conducted their affairs in a way that haven't been particularly controversial, whereas in Victoria they have been. Now, more recently, the Victorian branch obviously has taken over the South Australian branch, as you reported. That does concern me, because I wouldn't want to see the sort of militancy and the images of thuggish-like behaviour occurring on South Australian construction sites, and we'll be watching very closely to see if that occurs, and if it does, I'll be a Premier that will rail against it, because it's not the sort of behaviour that is consistent with my views about what is in the best interests of working people, and that's a view, as you well know, Dave, that's a view that I've had going well before that I had in Parliament, and that's something I've continued through in my approach to the Labor leadership, where we have demonstrated that we're leading a pro-business Labor government, and that includes, in recent weeks, not months, recent weeks, the CFMEU being rather upset at me because I adopted a pro-business position on workers' compensation reform that the Master Builders Association themselves are calling for, and the CFMEU were filthy about it. So,
have you thought about paying back the money? Have you thought about just saying to SA Labor, because frankly, I think you've bought yourself $125,000 worth of bad headlines here.
Well,
because it looks like they're your guys now.
But they're not, and you know that, Dave. And so you know that. And my view is that political donations always end up being controversial. I mean, the Liberal Party, who I know are pushing this story incredibly hard, and that's their prerogative, but the Liberal Party are accepting donations from Sally Zhu, which there have been a whole range of question marks for a long period of time, and I think from recollection, the reported sums that she's donated to the Liberal Party make $125,000 look like small beer. But regardless, political donations for me, I don't think sit well with the democratic process. And if I get my way, and I'll be doing everything I can to achieve this objective, I'll be banning donations full stop. I said before the election that I want the 2026, if I become Premier, my objective is to make sure that the 2026 state election is the one that doesn't have political donations playing a role, and rather South Australians know that the political process is entirely focused on them and policy development.
Premier, some other stories knocking around this morning that we want to get your opinion on as well. I just direct you to some comments you made back in 2018 with regard to the Footy Express, where you said, free public transport for footy fans is important to reduce the day-out cost for families, reduce congestion and move large numbers of fans quickly. If we continue to increase the cost of going to the footy, it's going to get harder for South Australian families to get to a game. Yet, the head of your transport department, quoted in the paper this morning, is saying your government is looking to do precisely that and charge football fans to use the Footy Express.
No, that's not right at all. So what happened is the Liberals, when back in 2018, they sought to go to a full cost recovery model in respect to the Footy Express, which meant that the government wasn't going to play a role in the subsidy that underpins free public transport to the footy. I opposed it at the time, and I oppose it now. What this government is now doing, because the contract is up for negotiation, is entering in a negotiation with the clubs to make sure that footy plays a role to play in the subsidy, but the state government, my government, will continue to subsidise the Footy Express to ensure that it remains free to the
But you're shifting the cost impost onto football fans.
No, but Will, that has always been the case. So the issue here, back in 2018, the then brand new Liberal government was seeking to go to total full cost recovery. That is to say, the state government wasn't going to contribute any funds as a matter of principle to the footy. I disagree with that. I disagree with that, and I still do. So just
to clarify that, to get that 100% bedded down.
Sure.
John Whelan said this morning that the department wanted the clubs to partially or fully fund the Footy Express.
Yes, that's right, partially, which means...
this is a direct quote.
Well, if they volunteer
or fully fund.
Well, if they volunteer it, we're not going to say no to it, but I don't imagine they will, particularly after this radio conversation. But the objective here is to have them make a contribution, as they always have, right, in conjunction with the state government. And that's us working closely with footy.
Let me put it this way. Do you want to see that contribution go up?
From
the clubs, which is the fans.
Well, we're going to go into a negotiation with them. But what I can say to you definitively is that the government that I lead will ensure that the Footy Express remains free and that the state government makes a substantial contribution to that to ensure that is the case.
The biggest talking point on the program over the course of the early part of this week has been that problematic intersection in Glen Osmond Road and the bottom of the freeway where we had that horrible near miss the other day.
Yeah.
Is there something that can be done to make it safer?
Well, there have been a lot of things done to make it safer, but the news that we've heard this morning about the charges that are being laid against the truck driver, I mean, I'm not too sure, and just for the benefit of listeners this might be news to them. I mean, one of the offences I understand the truck driver's been charged with is driving unlicensed. Now, I mean, we can put speed restrictions in place, we can pass legislation requiring truck drivers to use low gear, we can put in the arrestor beds, we can do all these safety measures, but if we get some peanut who decides to jump in a truck unlicensed and untrained, well, I'm not too sure what safety mechanisms we can do in an infrastructure sense or in a legislative sense that can stop that from happening. It is always difficult for governments to try and impose themselves and prevent people behaving absolutely recklessly, which allegedly appears to be what occurred here. So,
in a broader sense, though, do we need to have a bigger and more ambitious conversation? I mean, I know the Libs had the plan which they shelved about GlobeLink to get the trucks off the roads. Do we need to go back to some more big picture sort of thinking about it?
Well, we are
continue to be a problem.
We are looking at a range of options, and since the accident, I've made it clear that we are going to look again, and this isn't the first time this has happened, but look again at whether or not we can introduce a third arrestor bed. There's a bit of not misinformation, that's the wrong term, but there's a suggestion out there that truckies don't use arrestor beds because they fear the potential of getting a fine if they use an arrestor bed. That used to be the case. That was removed some time ago. So there has been a range of measures put in place. There are things that we're going to closely examine. But ultimately, when we're talking about, particularly in the fiscal environment that we now operate within, we're using taxpayers' dollars very carefully in a way that's consistent with what we committed to before the election. And I'm not going to come on here and make the mistake of my predecessor by saying, "Oh, we're committing to a solution here," and then they don't deliver it because it's unfunded and it's an astronomical cost. But we will look at options. I committed to that before the charges have been laid, and I will continue to pursue that.
Peter Malinauskas, thanks very much for
I appreciate it,
studio
gents.
this morning.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right, let's check traffic. Discover Bloom at Glenside. Prestige apartments for discerning boomers. Register at bloomglenside.com.au.
At Medini Gardens, City Barn delays from an earlier crash. That's Main North Road near Nottage Terrace. At Findon, you'll find gas replacement works this morning. Trimmer Parade near Findon Road. That's affecting both directions. And in the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace. It's for the Illuminate Festival. Busy right now, South Road at Mile End with a camera. Blacktop Road at One Tree Hill. Delicious 100% clean Mexican food. Enjoy a Guzmani Gomez burrito or bowl for only $9.90. Yes, just $9.90 when you order through the GYG app. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Rowie Sports Show.
Chelsea Randall will captain the club for its 7th straight season. Chelsea, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really, honestly, very proud and feel very supported amongst such an incredible group. So excited for another season.
4 p.m. weekdays.
7 years. Where's that time gone, Chelsea? 7 years.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I can't believe it. I still can remember the first day coming over to Adelaide and thinking we're not sure how competitive we'll be.
Rowie Sports Show on 5AA.
G'day, it's Mark Bickley. Schools, councils and businesses all over South Australia choose Leader Computers for very important reasons. Leader is local and exceptional value. No matter what happens, Leader can be on site to fix your problem. No overseas or interstate call centres to deal with. Plus, Leader Computers is a 100% owned and operated South Australian company, offering fast same-day delivery and setup. That's why so many organisations rely on Leader. Google Leader Computers to find your closest Leader reseller.
Introducing Australia's most wanted. Unanimously judged as Cars of the Year. The fully electric Kia EV6, winner of Wheels Car of the Year. And the Kia Sportage, Drives Car of the Year. To pick your side in this sibling rivalry, visit kia.com.au.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
Where are you listening to this radio ad? Are you sitting in the car? Let me ask you a question. If you hit a Stobie pole, do you stay in or get out? The answer is to stay in your car and call 000 along with SA Power Networks. You won't know if the pole or power lines are still live. You'll be shocked by what you don't know. For more information on electrical safety, look up SA Power Networks, empowering South Australia.
Tax return is done. Give
Tick.
that a big tick. Refund on the way.
Tick.
What do you do with it, though? Well, of course, you can replenish your emergency fund, but then you should replenish yourself and get that PureTap.
That's right. Now's the time to join PureTap's war on waste by reducing single-use plastics. You get great-tasting filtered water that will replenish you forever.
Head to the PureTap website now and check out the amazing prices, because how good's this? A PureTap from only $49 up front. That is pure value.
So that's a designer tap, installation and filters for 2 years on a great payment plan.
Call PureTap on 133 502 or go to puretap.com.au. Some T's and C's apply.
If you're feeling unwell, you might be thinking of heading to the emergency department. But sometimes there's better ways to get better. For coughs and colds, a GP or respiratory clinic might be better. For minor cuts and grazes, you're better off at a pharmacy. And the emergency department is always there if you need it. Not sure what to do? Call Health Direct on 1800 022 222. For more info, visit sahealth.sa.gov.au. A message from the Government of South Australia.
9 News has the experience to break the news. Made in Adelaide for Adelaide. 9 News. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
5AA Breakfast.
It's 24 minutes after 8. Lots of texts on the Automasters text line. We might get to those in just a second. Or do you want to read a little random?
Well, look,
Whitman
I
sampler?
think we can actually go through them pretty quickly, because overwhelmingly people are not convinced by the Premier's explanations about the CFMEU donation. Max says Peter Malinowskis is convincing no one. Cheryl says, sorry, Mr Premier, on the CFMEU issue you are not convincing. Lee says, sorry, Premier Pete, if you don't fix this and pay back the $125K to the CFMEU, you'll lose much of the goodwill and trust of South Australians. Another one here, please ask the Premier why he didn't reject the donation to put his money where his mouth is. And another one here from Bob in West Croydon, who simply says, please ask the Premier to remove his call flute from MJ McInerney Reserve at West Croydon.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
He can,
a lot of satisfied customers.
He's got a lot in his orbit, the Premier, that's for sure. Big story in South Australia, one of the biggest developments in the history of the longest-running mystery in South Australia, played out yesterday and quite extensively last night on Matthew Pantelis' program, where he spoke with Professor Dr. Derek Abbott, who said he's identified the Somerton Man. This story is amazing. We've had everything from it being his body was... He was killed because he was a spy, to it was some sort of domestic dispute, involvement of organised crime. You name it, there's a theory about it. Well, we can put some of that to bed now with Professor Derek Abbott identifying the Somerton Man by virtue of advancements in DNA technology and able to piece things together with genealogy websites and form a family tree of who the Somerton Man might have been related to, and then determining who he was. So we wanted to play you a chunk of Derek Abbott with Matthew Pantelis last night on the 5AA evening program.
We've been working on this now at Adelaide Uni for, 15 years, and about 2011, the police kindly let us have access to the Somerton Man's hair, and so we've been trying to extract DNA from it all these years. It's a very tough problem getting it out of old hair, but the technology has improved dramatically over the years. And finally, we had enough refinement that by about February this year, we were ready to go and use that DNA to find a nearest cousin to the Somerton Man.
Wow.
And the way that works is many people in the world submit their DNA to, companies like Ancestry.com, etc., to have their DNA tested so that they can find their relatives to put on their family tree. So using that methodology, we were able to find a very distant cousin on his father's side. And then by building out that family tree, that's how we discovered Carl Webb, which we believe is the name of the Somerton Man. Although he was born Carl Webb, he actually went by the name Charles Webb. He was born in 1905 in Footscray, Victoria. He is in a family of 6 siblings, and he's the only one with no date of death.
Right.
And so it stood out like a sore thumb. Our tree had 4,000 people on it altogether as we built it out, and there were only 2 people on this tree with no date of death. We kept an open mind. It could have been either of these 2 guys, but what we're able to do is trace Carl Webb's maternal side down and find somebody alive today who has done one of these genealogical DNA tests, and we found a match.
Right.
So we triangulated. We got a line coming up from his paternal side, a line coming up from maternal side, meeting at a point which was Carl Webb. And so that's how we nailed him. And we've now got subsequent other matches to triangulate as well. So we're very confident, with 99.9% confidence that this is the man.
How do you feel, Derek, personally? I mean, you've been working on this for a long time, clearly, and mystery solved. It's all over.
Tired and elated, all mixed up in one.
I bet.
But it's not over, really, because the next step is to do historical research on him and see if we can find out more about the circumstances.
Great interview, Matthew Pantelis, 5AA Evenings. If you go to their podcast, you'll be able to listen to the entirety of it. I think they ended up chatting for about 15 minutes about the whole investigation and what comes next. And I suspect if you're someone that's followed the mystery very closely, you'll really enjoy that interview. 5AA News is coming up. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
With fuel prices the way they are, it's now more important than ever for your car to be fuel efficient. Peak performance means peak efficiency, and that means Automasters. Book now for an Automasters Peak Performance Injector service. Petrol or diesel, your Automasters specialist will clean and service your fuel injection system to ensure your vehicle is running at optimum efficiency. Save fuel, save money. Get the best out of your car. Call 1300 Automasters. Peak performance guaranteed.
Are you dreaming of a better sleep? Are you suffering from stress or a busy mind? At FIVEaa, we're inviting people aged 18 to 75 who have trouble sleeping to participate in a CBD sleep study. Learn more and register your interest today. Go to cbdsleepstudy.com.au. That's cbdsleepstudy.com.au.
Montine, everybody's talking about Montine.
Miles Fitzner here, and everybody's talking about Montine Kia at Cheltenham and Mount Barker for their amazing July deals. Top deals in town on Kia Sorrento, Kia Sportage, Kia Cerato and Kia Carnival. All with the class-leading 7-year warranty and Montine special gift on all Kias. Want to know the special gift? Call Matt at Cheltenham and John at Mount Barker today. Now that's why everybody's talking about Montine Kia.
Montine, Montine.
MVD 182170.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Partly cloudy and 15 with the 8:30 news. I'm Kendall Brattig.
Looking for the perfect winter exercise? Physio Extra offers clinical Pilates at 6 locations. physioextra.com.
Police will prepare a report for the coroner after a cyclist hit by a train at North Adelaide died in hospital. It happened late last month as the cyclist was crossing the tracks at the North Adelaide railway station on War Memorial Drive. The 64-year-old man from Westlake Shore suffered serious injuries and was taken to the RAH. He died on Sunday. Serious charges have now been laid against a truckie following Sunday's shocking crash at the bottom of the freeway. His truck ploughed into 7 cars and a bus, injuring 9 people. Senior Constable Dave Muir says the truckie was also taken to hospital.
Now, last night, that truck driver, a 60-year-old man from Queensland, was arrested and charged with acts to endanger life, 9 counts of dangerous driving causing harm, and a number of other traffic matters, including numerous national heavy vehicle offences. He's been refused bail and he'll front the Adelaide Magistrates Court later today.
Efforts will continue today to identify human remains found in the Hale Conservation Park in Williamstown. A bushwalker found the remains while hiking yesterday. A thorough search of the area will be undertaken this morning and the remains analysed by forensic experts. The annual inflation rate could officially reach a 32-year high today. The Bureau of Statistics will release data showing the effects of surging consumer prices in the June quarter. AMP Chief Economist Shane Oliver says the key thing to watch is whether it rises even higher than predicted.
But if inflation continues to surprise on the upside such that we push above the 7% Reserve Bank estimate by year end, then that just only adds to pressure on the Reserve Bank to keep raising interest rates and to raise them by more.
A push to scrap the cashless debit cards being supported by MPs from across the political spectrum. The federal government's introducing a bill to abolish the scheme 7 years after it was introduced. It restricts how some welfare recipients spend 80% of their payments. Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young's backing the move.
Well, we've had big concerns around the cashless welfare card for a long time, and anything we can do to improve the situation for people who are living well below the poverty line is needed.
Adelaide Zoo's taking the current threat of foot and mouth disease to Australia very seriously. While there are no restrictions in place at the moment, that could change should there be an outbreak. Director of Zoos SA, Dr Phil Ainsley's told David and Will they're getting advice from PIRSA and the Chief Veterinary Officer.
It really is business as usual. We're obviously very mindful of understanding what that threat is, definitely having conversations with our staff about where they've travelled to and making sure they've got clean clothes and clean footwear on, but there's no restrictions for any visitors coming to either of our sites at this point in time.
Qantas is apologising for its performance, admitting it's not matching how the airline was operating before COVID. 13 flights were cancelled in Sydney alone yesterday. Qantas domestic and international chief Andrew David says the cancellation rates are improving.
Apology to all your listeners. We are the national carrier. People have high expectations of us. We have high expectations of ourselves. And clearly over the last few months, we have not been delivering what we did pre-COVID.
Former US President Donald Trump has blasted his successor during his first appearance in Washington, D.C. since leaving office. He's in the capital for a Conservative summit, accusing the Biden administration of bringing the country to its knees.
Our streets are riddled with needles and soaked with the blood of innocent victims. Many of our once great cities, from New York to Chicago to L.A., where the middle class used to flock to live the American dream, are now war zones, literal war zones.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
New Mitsubishi Triton with 10-year warranty, 10-year capped price servicing at Agostino Mitsubishi, Nailsworth and Elizabeth.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Kendall. AFL great Lee Matthews says his blood is still boiling following the non-free kick to Collingwood forward Jack Ginnivan. That was during Sunday's clash against Essendon. He says the league and umpires are failing to protect the player who gets the ball.
I was anything from disillusioned to disappointed to angry to shocked. It got my blood boiling, and frankly, two days later it does.
Adelaide will train tonight, meantime, as it prepares to take on Carlton on Saturday night at home, while Port Adelaide will enjoy a light day ahead of Saturday's match against Collingwood at the MCG. Meantime, Bulldogs Caleb Daniel, Taylor Ray and Adam Treloar face fitness tests this week as the Doggies prepare to take on ladder leaders Geelong in Geelong on Saturday night. Dogs captain Marcus Bontempelli says he's never won at Cardinia Park.
We got pretty close last year, but close isn't, as we know, isn't good enough. So Gary Rowan obviously popped one in after the siren, which at the time was pretty, devastating. But it's pretty much the toughest challenge in football, I think, in today's sort of modern age is the Cats down at home.
To soccer, Cristiano Ronaldo will hold a meeting with Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag to discuss his future at Old Trafford. Ten Hag has declared Ronaldo is not for sale, but the Portuguese star wants out. And Australian basketballer Liz Cambage has mutually terminated her contract with her WNBA team, the LA Sparks. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
At Findon, you'll find gas replacement works on Trimmer Parade near Findon Road. That's affecting both directions. In the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettleville Terrace for the Illuminate Festival. At McGill, you'll find intersection upgrade works McGill Road near St Bernard's Road, and we're busy right now Richmond Road at Hilton. Cameras Blacktop Road, One Tree Hill, and Kersbrook Road at Humbug Scrub. Battery World is giving you a chance to win one of 4 $25,000 cash prizes. Purchase any car battery to be in the draw. Battery World, powering Aussies for 25 years. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
3 out of 4 people never hear back from interviews. Shouldn't people matter more than that? Zoom Recruitment.
Partly cloudy and 15 today, a shower or two tomorrow, also 15, mostly sunny Friday, 15 again, and then up to 17 on Saturday and partly cloudy. At the moment, 9. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Do you want fresh filtered water flowing through your home? Choose a system by Complete Home Filtration. Joining me from Complete Home Filtration is Suzanne Dodds, who incidentally won the Telstra 2022 Business Awards. So what's the benefits of filtered water, Suzanne?
Well, the benefits of filtering water for the whole home mean that you don't just enjoy filtered water for drinking, but for showering and bathing as well. So people see big differences in softer skin, softer hair, unlimited bottled water, quality water from every tap.
That sounds great. So where can we purchase one?
You can just jump online and go to completehomefiltration.com.au.
That's completehomefiltration.com.au.
Taste, feel, see the difference.
With fuel prices the way they are, fuel efficiency is more important than ever. And that means a peak performance injector service from Automasters. Ensure your vehicle is running at optimum efficiency. Save fuel, save money. Call 1300 Automasters.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
22 minutes to 9, behind closed doors coming up in just a moment. I got it right that time. It actually is behind closed doors as opposed to a serious interview with the Premier of South Australia.
You totally threw me with that, Will.
I
was quite nervous talking to the Premier face to face after the pizzling that he's been getting in the Australian about the CFMEU stuff. I was sitting here. When he walked into the studio, I put my hands over my head, pretended to hide under the desk.
Struck. So maybe subconsciously I was just sort of removing a bit of the tension.
Well, I think you were. I was worried he might have brought some of the boys in with me to rough me up.
Some of his new mates. Just a joke, Premier. Just a joke. But it is coming up in a moment, Bob. We will go behind closed doors. We've spoken at times as we cover some of the developing stories overnight throughout the morning on 5AA about the situation in Sri Lanka, one that's been... it's been devastating to watch. I was lucky enough to go there for a number of weeks a few years ago, and I've raved about it to absolutely everyone I've spoken to since. A beautiful country with magnificent people, some of the most extraordinary things you'll see anywhere on earth. Everyone should get to go there. But watching what's happened there at the moment since about 2019 as the political situation's deteriorated, there's been economic problems that have been headlined by levels of inflation that you Australians wouldn't believe some of the figures that have come out. And it's led to things like petrol rationing, and you can just imagine what life's like if suddenly you're not even allowed to go and fill up your car. What we wanted to do was speak to someone who's in and amongst it, living there, and we are lucky enough to have a good, strong Sri Lankan connection here at 5AA with Ryan Honta, one of our excellent salespeople who does a wonderful job here. His family, of course, have come out he's come out from Sri Lanka. His family are all still there, including his mother, Nolene Honta, who's with us in the 5AA Breakfast studio and is a media performer in her own right in Sri Lanka with TV, and you're a singer, Nolene. We're delighted to be able to have you here in Adelaide and indeed on the show. Just unfortunate the circumstances and the subject matter is probably not what you want to be talking about.
Thank you, David, for welcoming me to 5AA. It's great to be here this morning.
No, it's great. It's great to have you here. So before we get into the politics of Sri Lanka, Nolene, can I just ask, so you do you're the equivalent of like Sunrise Today type TV show host
yes,
in
well,
Sri Lanka?
I have been a television news presenter most of the time, and I've also done interviews and, well, I've done everything on television. I've been there since the inception of television in Sri Lanka, actually.
Yeah, right.
So, well, I've had the opportunity of interviewing various heads of state when I've been representing our television station at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. I interviewed your former Prime Minister, Bob Hawke.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. And also Rajiv Gandhi and so many other heads of state, including the he was the Prime Minister of Canada at the time, Brian Mulroney. Yeah.
Wow.
So many leaders. I've had the opportunity of interviewing them.
It must be quite unique, the situation in Sri Lanka now where you're not so much covering it, but you're living it. You've been in the thick of it.
Yes, it is. Well, the situation is horrendous, I must tell you, because Sri Lanka, as Will tell you, it was a paradise. And now it's almost hell on earth, because people, as you were talking about it, Will, you said that about the petrol queues. The petrol queues are so long, you can't even believe it. It's about 5 miles long.
Wow.
And there are cars just, queued up. And people, they live in the petrol queues. And some of them die in the petrol queues as well. I must tell you that there were about 10 or perhaps a little more than 10 people who have died being in the petrol queues. They've been in their vehicles and died there. Because they spend days on end in the petrol queues.
What about things like getting food and so forth? Can you go to the supermarket?
Well, you can go to the supermarket, but prices are very, very high. And I must tell you about the milk powder, because in Sri Lanka, people are not used to drinking fresh milk so much. They have powdered milk. So, earlier the milk powder was just 250 rupees for a 400-gram pack. Now it's 1,200 rupees for a 400-gram pack, and people can't afford it. Most people can't afford it. And that's not all. Rice is over the roof. Rice, as you know, is our staple food. And the prices are really very, very high, and people can't afford it. There are people who, most people, in fact, not just a few people, but most people, they just have one meal a day. Sometimes they don't have anything at all. And then perhaps they'll have a cup of tea or something like that. So it's very, very expensive in Sri Lanka now, because they have also, downplayed the rupee. They've reduced the rupee. So the thing is that everything is high now. The dollar is over the roof. And I'll just tell you about the Australian dollar. It was about 130 rupees about a year or two ago, but now it went up to 300 odd, and now it's kind of stabilized. I don't know whether it's stabilized there, but it may come down later, hopefully. It is 242 rupees for an Australian dollar. So it's very, very expensive.
I want to ask you a question, and I'm sure you could speak to this for hours, but I wonder if there's a simple way for Australians that aren't familiar with the situation in Sri Lanka that you would explain to them how it got to being like this, given it was a paradise, I'll vouch for that, just 3 years ago.
Well, I think I blame Gotabaya Rajapaksa for the situation in the country now. That was our former prime president. He actually, I think it really started when he came into power. He introduced organic fertilizer in Sri Lanka, which is actually a positive thing. But he didn't gradually introduce it. He did it overnight. And then the paddy cultivation suffered, and the prices of rice went sky high. And that was not all. Then he also lowered the income tax and corporate taxes drastically. And we owed so much to China. And also then we had the COVID problem. So our economy was really down, and then COVID struck, and we couldn't really do anything about it. And then everything went down, and then the petrol prices went up, and petrol queues started, and that's not all gas queues, because people in Sri Lanka, they don't have the piped gas lines. They have the cylinders. So they have to carry their cylinders and go and stand in long queues again. And you can't get the gas anyway. There are people who stand in queues for about 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 days sometimes waiting for gas. and they can't cook. And now, of course, people are very creative and innovative, so they've introduced new kinds of cookers, like they are made out of clay, and and it's the fuel is coconut shells, so they use that, and that's all right. But without gas, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, and that's not all. Food queues, it's horrendous. If you want a slab of butter, you've got to go and wait in a queue to get some butter.
Just
Sometimes when you come to the end of the queue, the butter is gone.
It's unbelievable how such a stable country can go so badly so fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we hope things can return to some level of normality sooner rather than later. Maybe
I hope so.
Change of government will achieve that.
Well, I don't think there's anything, any positive sign for even maybe about a year or two. Because, that's what they say. In fact, the minister, he said that the petrol queues, the petrol problem will continue for at least a year more.
Well, it's great that it's great that you're here in Adelaide.
Yes, absolutely.
You can stay here with your son Ryan for as long as necessary.
I'm loving it here, in fact.
Well, we love having you here as well, Nolene. Thank you so much for coming into the studio and giving our listeners a level of insight that they're not going to hear anywhere else. That was magnificent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Will, and thank you, David.
Thank you,
It's great being here.
Yeah,
all right, let's check traffic. Discover Bloom at Glenside Prestige Apartments for discerning boomers. Register at bloomglenside.com.au.
Thanks, Will. At Salisbury, there's a smash on Salisbury Highway at Waterloo Corner Road. At Findon, gas replacement works on Trimmer Parade near Findon Road, affecting both directions. In the Parklands, Rundle Road is closed between East Terrace and Kettlewell Terrace for the Illuminate Festival, and we're busy right now AG Road at Clemsick. Cameras, Adams Road, Craigmore, and Blacktop Road at One Tree Hill. Shopping is so much easier when you use the Coles app. Plus, you can create and share shopping lists to make grocery shopping simple. Download the Coles app today. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
G'day, what you looking at? Shh. Be quiet. Oh, what you looking at?
Oh, well, isn't it obvious? It's remarkable. The detail and finish of Michelangelo with the raw beauty of Monet. I've never seen anything like it.
I have. I've got one at home. Drive on it every day.
What? What do you mean? That's ridiculous.
It's an exposed aggregate driveway. Beautiful.
All right, who's the artist?
Adelaide Exposed Concrete. Best on ground all year round.
The Barossa Valley is gorgeous, which is why it makes sense to make the vine change to retirement living in Barossa Village in Angaston, Tanunda and Nooriutpa. It's the retirement lifestyle you deserve, and your pets too. Yes, your pets are your family, so you should never have to choose between your lifestyle and your beloved animals. Make the vine change at Barossa Village, under an hour from the city. Find out more at barossavillage.org.
You can go everywhere, man, at the Let's Go Caravan and Camping Show, man.
It's a huge show, and it's on this week. For tickets, go to caravanandcampingsa.com.au.
The latest caravans, camper trailers and RVs, a huge range of camping equipment, four-wheel drive accessories and everything else for your dream road trip with experts on hand to help.
There'll be lots to see and do. Shop, learn and be entertained.
The Let's Go Caravan and Camping Show, yeah!
It's on this week, so don't miss out.
Let's go!
When you sign with some of the big builders, it can be a bit of fanfare. They'll throw everything at you. It'll be the kitchen sink. They'll throw 2 kitchen sinks at you, and everything will seem great in the beginning, like a new relationship. It'll be magical. I sound like Donald Trump. That happens up until you have questions. And then all of a sudden, it can be really hard to find someone to talk to.
Well, I'll tell you what, you won't have that problem if you deal with the excellent people at Lamar Homes. Lamar Homes is a quality South Australian builder with absolutely nothing to hide, and they've been around for more than 15 years.
Lamar Homes are all about people. You're not a number to them, so the team at Lamar are always available to answer your questions. They'll even answer the really tough ones. And the other great thing about Lamar, and not everyone does this, believe you me, you can inspect your home at any stage, even at lockup, just to make sure you're happy with everything.
And look, some of the big builders aren't really comfortable doing that, but not so with Lamar, where they've got nothing to hide. Visit lamarhomes.com.au. Here today, home tomorrow.
Potential treatments for life-threatening conditions could be on the horizon thanks to the people of Adelaide. CMAX Clinical Research are looking for just 32 healthy volunteers aged 18 to 55 who do not have any medical conditions or concerns. Acute respiratory distress syndrome, the leading cause of death from COVID-19, has no current therapeutic treatment, and CMAX is involved in trialling one. All eligible participants are paid for their time. Apply for CM8821 at cmax.com.au. That's cmax.com.au.
9 News has the experience to break the news. Made in Adelaide for Adelaide. 9 News.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
8 to 9, Fuel Watch in just a moment. Behind closed doors too, but first, Peter and Warradale's called in. Morning to you, Peter.
Morning. Just a quick comment about the Eastern Freeway.
Yep.
The left-hand lane, the slow lane, is on the wrong side of the road, so it needs to be in the middle of the road. So when you've got semis coming down doing 25, 40 Ks bumper to bumper, and somebody gets out of control, all the rest of the roads get blocked. So if they had the slow lane in the third or fourth lane in the middle of the road, all the rest of it will be access if a truck got out of control.
Because you could just swing out towards it.
That's right.
They are.
And when they go to the bottom of the road, they all cut across to the middle lane to get onto Port Rush Road.
Mm.
So that's causing danger at the bottom of the freeway as well.
Yeah,
but it's just because the truckie said that to me this morning. He does 25 Ks down there in the right gear, and if a truck's out of control, where do they go?
Yeah, it's a reasonable point, Peter. There are other places in the world where on a highway or a motorway, the middle lane is the slow lane.
Mm.
That's not. I can't think where, but it might have been in the US. If you're in the middle, it's the slow lane.
Well, yeah, but that's on account of the side of the road that they drive on.
No, but I'm talking about the middle, so it's a 3-lane.
Oh, on a 3-lane.
And a 3-lane scenario.
Yeah, okay.
It might be. Someone will be able to correct me. If you can shoot us a text on the Automasters text line or call in quickly on 8223 0000.
How do you even keep your job as a truckie if you're not licensed?
Yeah, well, yeah.
It is extraordinary.
Who's hiring
What sort of a gym crack operation are these people running? Allegedly.
Welcome back, David.
Allegedly.
All right, it's time for Fuel Watch. Download the free MyRAA app today to find the cheapest fuel in an instant. The ex-convenience North East Road, Hampstead Gardens. $55.5. That's cheap, actually. That's getting
$55.
$55.5. You can take that.
Oh, well, I'm going to pay great attention to this, Will.
I'm glad.
I haven't left. I always do, but
Yeah.
I haven't left the house for a week.
Right.
So I'm going to be hitting the road.
You need some petrol.
today.
Hey, well, you've picked a good day to get out then. The OTR Military Road, Largs Bay, $1.57.9, and the ex-convenience Brighton Road, North Brighton, $1.55.5. That's all pretty reasonable, really. The cheapest diesel is the OTR Main South Road, Old Noarlunga, $2.04.9.
Diesel. Still stuck above $2, isn't it?
Yeah, just
50 cents more than unleaded. Crazy.
Quite extraordinary. All right, let's go behind closed doors. Thanks to
Finally.
Aussie Fast. Yeah, that's right. I knew I'd get it right eventually.
Yeah, it's time for breaking at 8.
Like a broken clock. If I say it all morning, we'll get there eventually. Thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions, interstate freight distribution, warehousing and local Adelaide couriers. Call Aussie Fast on 13 13 64.
And when we get behind closed...
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Partly cloudy tomorrow, 15 the top. With the 7 o'clock news, I'm David Bruce. Convicted NCA bomber Dominic Perry is appealing against his conviction. His lawyers are arguing that Justice Kevin Nicholson made an error in finding Perry guilty when there was no direct evidence that he had access to materials to make a bomb or the knowledge to make it. There'll be no Adelaide Metro bus services to and from the Adelaide Hills today due to industrial action being taken by some Southlink drivers. Any updates throughout the day will be posted on the Adelaide Metro website and on Twitter. The Governor-General will open the 47th Parliament as Labor moves to the government benches today. 18 pieces of legislation will be initially considered on issues like climate change and aged care. FIVEaa Sport now. Crows lost. Port lost. Now the FIVEaa forecast. Partly cloudy again tomorrow. 15 the top. Shower or two on Thursday. Currently 11 degrees. More news as it happens on FIVEaa.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Blake. 3 minutes to 9, and congratulations to Luke from Hallett Cove. You've won the Frozen tickets. Disney's Frozen the Musical must leave Adelaide next week. Don't miss this hit Broadway musical with great seats available under $100. Book at Ticketek. And that was that weird noise that you heard a moment ago.
Yeah, that was like the show freezing.
It was the show freezing.
Yeah, very clever.
Correctly identified.
It's quite an innovation. Amazing what changes. You take a week off work.
Good to be back. Good to be out of the house.
It is great to be back, Will. Great to be back. I was I sprang out of bed this morning with a spring in my step. Is that a tautology? I think it is. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that'll last, but I did wake up thinking, you beauty, I'm going into work.
So what's your first thing you're going to do? You've got freedom that started with a work engagement.
You know, it's weird.
What's the first free thing you're going to do?
I did quite a lot of gardening while I was stuck at home. I gardened for a couple of hours on Sunday. I've got a whole lot of garden beds ready to go, so I'm probably going to pop down to Mitre 10 later this afternoon wearing a mask, and I'm going to get some seedlings. I want to get some seedlings in. That's my big trip for the day. And also I'm going to go and see my parents, because my mum is only slightly stricken with the virus, but she's going to be cooped up for another 5 days. So I'm going to do a bit of a mercy dash to get some bread and some good bread and different things for mum and dad, and go and say good day to them. Because I'm immune now. I'm immune
exactly
for the
right.
next, what is it, 28 days at least?
I think they've reduced it, but don't check. Leon Byner's, it's best. Sometimes it's best not to know. Leon
Byner, one day at a time at the moment.
Leon Byner's coming up next, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning from 6.
Hey, it's Callum here. It wasn't by chance that Edwardstown Mazda located themselves bang on South Road. They wanted to make it easy for people driving to the city just like you to get your car serviced.